friends. Good evening and welcome to IBM TV Met Friday with Doctors. And this is your host Ankit Khanelwal joining you from Delhi, India. And we have Kimberly Calhoun joining us from Raleigh, North Carolina. Good morning, Kim. Good morning to the world and welcome to IBM TV. And today,
Good evening, Kit.
thank you.
Good evening. I don't think I did a good sound check today, but we'll make this work. So, how are things going in India?
It's fine. I mean, it's too much of moisture and rain and all those stuff. That's why I was not able to beam in yesterday because of the low bandwidth, and I tried to fix it up. That's how I mean, that's how reality works. I mean, because we don't have any script, we don't record. It's all live. I mean, people know that bandwidth is always a problem during rains. That happened in Silicon Valley as well. So we are not Silicon Valley, and that happened to India as well. I mean, when it happens in most of the parts of the world. In fact, today we are doing a show from Nigeria, and they have a very good bandwidth. I mean, compared to what they have earlier, and the show is running very well. So that's what it is. I mean, it's all about technology. Yeah.
It's technology. And this is what I tell people. Technology, unfortunately, is only as good as the humans build it. It is still the basis of the human. So is AI, right? AI is only as smart as the humans who build it. So we have to be thankful for what we are given in this world. I keep hearing something blotchy there, but let's talk about some other good things that are happening in India. Are you guys getting the COVID situation under control?
It's a peak like I mean we have 65,000, 70,000 cases every day, and 1,000 deaths every day. That's what's happening in India. Russia offered us to help us and work on a vaccine with Russians. So I'm not sure what the verdict of government, but we were close allies, and then that's what we are trying to work it out. And I mean, because everyone is waiting for vaccine now. I mean, people know that they will. I mean, stay at home, whatever they can do, but still, then everyone is waiting for vaccine, and that's what people are wondering when it happened and how it happened. But you know that I mean, our Ayurveda and herbal are very strong, so everyone is taking care of those spice waters and everything, and then that's what we believe that herd immunity is. Because if you just compare the world map of COVID, we have the best recovery rate.
Yes, you do. And you know what? Dr. Sagu had it, right? And he was truly inspirational on, facts without fear, right? This is what happened. It wasn't easy, but we got through it. And it's not something any of us really want to have to go through. But again, some of the positive that he has tried to inspire in us is what? Keep your immunity high, have it ready to fight. Don't wait until you get sick to take these vitamins. Build your immunity now, right? Kind of like don't hire the fire department after the fire, right? Be prepared. And I think you guys are doing, your success rate, your recovery rates are high, and that's a good thing. I mean, it's very sad that so many people are dying. And hopefully we'll start focusing more on building everyone's immunity. But the good sign is that your success rate is higher than your mortality rate, which is, I hate, we got to take the good in this. And what is the advice that they're giving the people right now?
Just take the right precautions, whatever we are discussing, wear the mask, and try to take all the immunity boosters, which will help you to fight the virus. Because, I mean, based on some surveys and some tests, it believed that we have a mild symptom as well going around, and then a lot of people have COVID and they passed on. They never checked it out. But because of the immunity boosters and because of all the precautions they are taking, they just passed that time. So it's more about taking the right precautions and sharing the best practices around the world, and that's what we are doing in India. Because you won't believe, I told you about that I mean, spice water, hot spice water. So everyone in India, which is known as kada, so like 80% of the Indians are, I mean, taking this kada every day since past 5 months, and we never know. I mean, but we believe that that is saving our life basically, because whoever is taking it, they are very happy and they are having a good health immune system, and when they don't have any problem. In fact, during the monsoon time, we have a lot of swine flus and dengue and all those viral infections going on. But because of those kada, people are not suffering that much as compared to it was in past. Because of the COVID, things have changed, but we still have to have a good health practices coming around, and we have to follow this practice for a long period of time. It's not just COVID. it's for the rest of your life. So social distancing would remain the same. People would have to have masks. That would be definitely there. We might have some rules of change here and there, but still, people who wanted to take good care of their health and wealth, they have to wear the mask. So that it's a part of culture now. So that's what we have to follow.
And I think that that's very important, is to be preventive, right? And
Yeah.
don't wait until after you get sick to try to take these things, because they got to catch up. Just like I always tell people about pain, right? If you know you're going to have some pain,
Yeah.
go ahead and do a little bit of precautionary and put that pain patch on before you do the project, so that you're not fighting the pain. But little preventive measures can go a long way, as you're saying, right? Because they're taking these things, they're not getting the usual flus and diseases that come with the rainy seasons. Another situation like what we're kind of dealing with right now is what's going to be the impact of opening the schools. I really thought that the decision was not to let the children go to the schools, and apparently they went ahead and opened up the schools, and the children are going to school every day. So, and this is what I tell people. They go, oh, the next day, oh, nothing happened. And I'm like, 2 weeks. You got to give that virus 2 weeks time. So people, but again, and I'm going to tell you something, Ankit, how we said that sometimes wearing gloves can be more dangerous because you're still going to be apt to put the gloves to your face. But putting the sanitizer on your hands can dry them out really bad, washing your hands all day. So I saw this young man, and I was going to ask the doctors if this was okay to do this up at our grocery store. He's taken precaution way before anyone else. Like, he had the first mask, first shield, everything. But he's wearing gloves, right? But every time he touches the food to process it, he sanitizes the gloves. I thought that was pretty dang smart,
But you know that, I mean, we had some guidelines of election as well, because we have some state elections coming up, and the guidelines are about for the voters and for the candidates, how they can campaign and what else they have to follow, because we have a bigger population. So when we talk about elections and rallies, I mean, millions of people, voted, and millions of people joined those rallies. So there are some guidelines for that. But there's also a campaign going around that for students, we are not letting them to join the school right now. And I have decided that I am not letting my daughter to go to school until we have 0 cases, because I don't want to take any chances. She's too young, and then they don't know social distancing. Although she knows about COVID and all, but it's not easy for her to go out, and we can't control of her. So that's what it is. But I think it's time to play our daily news update by Bill President, and then.
So do we have the clip? Or do we want to play
this
the clip?
This is International Broadcast Media, also known as IBM Television, and I'm Bill Trezevant. Today's headline, August 21st, 2020. You can forget the balloons. Joe Biden provided fireworks, honking horns, and blinking car lights at the Democratic convention last evening. After nearly 50 years of public service begun in pain and sorrow with the loss of his first wife and daughter, Joe Biden laid down the gauntlet to President Trump and promised to heal the nation as an ally of light and not darkness, stating, "This is our moment. This is our mission. May history be able to say that the end of this chapter of American darkness began here tonight." Joe Biden, invoking echoes of FDR, defined his campaign with a bold blueprint for America he refers to as his strategic plan. A plan which would address climate change, gun violence, the COVID pandemic, and most importantly, the economic recovery. Joe Biden promised help for workers, young people, and those with, quote, a knee on their neck, stating that hope and history have a rhythm. Joe Biden, turning his attention to senior citizens, the aged and infirm, stated emphatically that he would protect them, stating, "You have my word." Next, to the United States American servicemen and women, Joe Biden unequivocally said that he would respond to any threats, any harm, including any bounties placed on their heads every time and without hesitation. The conclusion of the Democratic National Convention was highlighted by prayers from a Jewish rabbi, a Catholic priest, and a Muslim imam. In other news, the DNC reported record online fundraising during the course of the week of the Democratic National Convention. Separately, Steve Bannon, who had been arrested prior in the week on the yacht of a fugitive Chinese billionaire, was released on a $5 million bond. And finally, Donald Trump, after the conclusion of the Democratic National Convention, in an interview on Fox News, promised, quote, sheriffs, law enforcement, and U.S. attorneys at polling sites across America. That is your report today, August 21st, 2020, from IBM Television International Broadcast Media, broadcasting globally from dictatorships to democracies. I'm Bill Trezevant.
Wow. Is Bill in the house?
Yeah, Bill
Is Bill in the house? Can we bring Bill in? This was awesome.
Bill is right here. Hi, Bill.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Tim. Good morning, or good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good actually to our viewers. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever we are in the globe.
You know, that was beautiful. Well said. I, again, am avoiding watching any of what's going on and trying not to get involved with any engagements or a lot of engagements on social media. But what you said was just so factual and so positive and inspiring. Thank you.
No,
Thank you for not being mudslinging.
Right. You know, it's one. Well, what I can say to our viewers and our audience, this is just the beginning. We are going to have to wait to see what happens at the Republican National Committee next week. By any indication, the president did a campaign stop in Scranton, Pennsylvania yesterday and started campaigning or mudslinging. So it's going to get, well, let's just say we ought to buckle up.
Well, why? I hope that the Republicans don't fight back. Okay, this is a time that we just need to march on and continue talking about what our mission is, what our solutions are, and ignore the bully. Right? Ignore the pandering. Don't engage in this political banter. Just address the issues and turn away. Turn the cheek and move on, because again, the only people who would support that are people just like Trump. And I think majority of the country wouldn't be that way. I think the majority of the country will say, hey, you know what? We need to fix the problems, not fight. And that's just a true indication of the character that we're dealing with, right?
Yes, without a doubt. They're going to make it challenging, I believe, on the Republican side. We'll know more after next week. But
right.
Over the next 75, 74 days, because pretty soon we're going to forget what days are, because they're going to bleed into one another, you know. It's going to get interesting. And quite frankly, at least just as an observation, as we get closer and closer, and given that the stakes are so high, I for one am going to be nervous, and I'm a cynic, but I for one am going to be nervous about this, and so on top of everything else. But your thoughts, Kim?
Well, I'm nervous in many ways, but at the end of the day, I forget who said this, but I live by this thing that if you can't fix your problems on a world or global scale, and it's just too big for you to handle, focus back on what you can do, right? Rebuild your community, rebuild yourself, make yourself strong so that you can, again, take care of the problems of the world another day. Because sometimes it's just going to be out of our hands. And it's been out of my hands for the last 4 years. It's not been something that I've really been able to engage in on a bigger scale. So I've tried to focus more on what I can do here. But you know, we're going to have to do something to fix this economy. And I don't see anyone really trying to do that. I don't hear solutions. Do you?
Well, Biden came out with a blueprint. He called it his strategic plan, and it's quite detailed with regard to the economy, investment in green jobs, investment in infrastructure, hard infrastructure, roads, bridges, things of that nature, and it's quite comprehensive. And I reviewed it on his campaign website, and clearly it wouldn't have fit within the 3.5 minutes I had. Actually, I don't think I could fit it within an entire show.
Well, Biden is an action man. This is what I like about him. He's not about all talk. He is a walker. Like, he is, if he says he's going to do something, he does it. Like, when it came to the victims of domestic violence, he didn't just talk about we need to fix this problem. He went and wrote a bill. And nobody else helped him out with this. He just did it. And he pushed that bill and made changes to it based on what the current, society would accept, because sometimes society doesn't accept certain enforcements of law, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to kind of scale it. And he's smart enough to know how to do that. He was smart enough to come in and go, all right, we're going to throw all of these offenders up against the wall. Mm-hmm. He was smart enough not to do that. So.
I did have one question for the panel before I departed for the day.
Are you departing? Okay, so let's bring the panel in.
Okay.
Good morning. Oops, where did he go? All right, I'll let you bring in the panel, and Kid, I won't control it.
Willie, how's the mic?
Oh no!
Oh no!
Can't hear you, Willie.
We can't hear you.
Good morning, Tim, and good night.
I don't think it's the bandwidth as much as I think that there's just
some kind of a hardware problem.
I think it's a hardware problem.
Basically, I'll tell you one more thing. I mean, if you check out your browser, just check out whether the browser is muted or not, because you are able to talk on your Zoom and all those things, but I think the browser can be muted as well. So if you right click on the browser and unmute it, I think that could work.
Sometimes it's as simple as that.
And while we're waiting for him to do that, Bill, seeing as how this is Medical Friday, what are some of the big medical changes that Biden is promising?
Well, first and foremost, it's the biggest one is a change that he's not going to make, and that is to say that he's not going to do anything to compromise the ACA and or Medicaid or Medicare. He explicitly promised in his acceptance speech that he would protect that. Moreover, we understand and know, at least from his plan, during the course of the election, that he will be seeking to expand the ACA. Now, one thing that I found curious was that at the beginning of the convention, they emphasized his role as the shepherd of what they were calling the moonshot for cancer. And then during the course of the convention, they actually reaffirmed that obviously given his personal ties with the loss of his son, Beau, and I wanted to ask the panel and or the medical community what their thoughts were and what the state of cancer research was, and to see what kind of impact they would expect from a potential Biden administration on a focused effort to cure cancer, because that has long been the holy grail in America. As we all know, the term "I found a cure for cancer" is generally right up there with Mother Teresa. But I'm curious to see where we are, given our focus on the COVID pandemic and the attempts to find a vaccine. I'd like to know what the state of affairs are there, but also what they actually thought about a realistic attempt under a Biden administration of a concerted effort to cure cancer. But I defer to the panel.
Wow. So I want Jim to start with this, and I hope Ankit comes on, because he too had a brother who perished to cancer as well. My mother was died of cancer. So, I'm going to defer this to Jim right now.
Well, thank you, Kimberly, and I do hope Ankit can come back, because he had a neutral shirt on. I'm looking at a red wall and a red suit jacket, and I'm wearing blue shirt. So I feel outnumbered.
Jim, there's orange. You know?
Okay, there you go. Okay, I'll focus on that. I'll look at your
I'll give you guys a tip. When I put my red jacket on, it has nothing to do with Republicans. It has to do that I'm battling something today, and I need the power of red.
Oh, okay.
So but my team told me this. Can we notice every time you're coming in for battle, you wear red? And I didn't notice that until, this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Jim. Let's talk about this because this is very important.
Okay, yeah. I'm not a doctor, but I can play one on IBM TV. And I have been studying some of the research that's been done, and I'm going to just backtrack a little bit to what happened in chess when we had computer chess come on the scene, and all of the brilliant minds were focusing on heuristics to make computers think like people, and that got nowhere. And what happened was there was a brute force number crunching phenomena. The speed of the processors got faster and faster and faster. So they didn't use the heuristics. They used the technology and the speed of the technology to become better than any human. And so I think a lot of the cancer research were done by brilliant minds, but we're pointing in the wrong directions. And I think they're getting closer and closer to being more accurate in what is causing cancer and what can be done to prevent it. And not necessarily prevent the cancer from starting, but by nipping it in the bud. And by when it starts to spread, you can treat it so that it cannot replicate. And this is the thing that I think is also the answer to COVID. So this mentality has been a mind shift in the medical community, in the scientific community, and that now they're looking at prevention of repetition, the preventing of the viruses or cancers replicating themselves. And of course, the cancer is uncontrolled growth of these virulent cells. And we can maybe not prevent it starting, but we can stop it. And that's the future hope. And I think they're getting close. I really do.
So then you might see under a Biden, if Biden is elected, then a concerted effort might just be that extra shove that we need in the area of cancer research.
Yeah, and I think it's more important to fund that than it is to fund the fossil fuel industry.
And I agree, and I'm going to join in on this conversation. I think for many years, just like any industry, it's all about money. And I felt like that for many years that the pharmaceutical industry controls whether an answer comes about because it's more beneficial for them to have a treatment that people pay for as opposed to a solution. And the reason why I say this is because I worked for corporate for many years, and everything that we ever did couldn't just be a solution. It had to be a staged, scalable model that we could sell, right? Today, tomorrow, in the future. And of course, if Nick were here, he would beam me out at this point. So I'm going to say that I think that there are a lot of brilliant minds out there that can solve cancer. Okay. I watched my mother die in weeks where she was diagnosed that maybe she would have a year. And the cancer spread so fast because of the treatment. The treatment sometimes will cause the spread of cancer to go faster. I too am a patient of one of the world's rarest tumors. There is no cure, absolutely no cure. I was given 10 years to live back in 1997. So by the grace of God, I am still here and I am able to walk and move my arms. But there are all kinds of cancers out there. Do I think an answer exists? I do. I think that there are forces to be that prevent them from making it to the market. And I know that that's a conspiracy theory, but our world's too big. There's too many people and too many brilliant minds for us not to have an answer today. And I think that someone like Biden, who has the passion, who has experienced the loss of death from this, because I have seen what he has done for domestic violence victims when nobody else would step up to the plate. I think you do more when you are fighting to save a person's life. And I think you even do more beyond that when you know what it's like to lose someone from that kind of crime or that kind of disease. So I think Biden will push but again, at the end of the day, I think he'll be set with resistance because of this.
And it's an important topic as this is. I think I heard that Bill is here for a short period of time, and I wanted to get back a little bit to the convention and my takeaways on it, and just have you do a check on my perceptions. You know, I was just stunned by Biden's speech, and you know, I was also stunned by Obama's speech. They were so inspirational, so inspiring. I was just blown away. And we hear all of this stuff about, oh, Biden's old and Biden's lost it, and he's prone to gaffes, and has been, and he's overcome the stuttering, and so there are sometimes you can see him kind of hesitate before he speaks because he's battling that, and but he showed everyone watching that he's got it. He's still got it, and he can be passionate, convincing, and just spot on. And when somebody came on afterwards, I think it was Lawrence O'Donnell came on. He said, "You know, I've been watching Biden in the Senate for decades, and that's Joe Biden. You know, that kind of speech wasn't just prepared. He wasn't reading off a teleprompter. That's Joe Biden." So I just was so moved by that. And then I panned over to watch Trump's speech in Scranton, and it was hate-filled, putting people down, and it was also rambling. You kind of thought the guy had lost it. So I thought the comparison of the two, and I'm sure not too many people watched both of them, but they were speaking pretty much at the same time, and the comparison was so stark. Thank you for the word. And it was you know, you watch one and you're inspired. You watch one and you're brought down. And it's just amazing to have seen that last night.
Well, you know, Jim, I think you're absolutely correct on all of those points. I thought it was a very strong speech by Biden as well. I thought just, you know, Mario Cuomo, the former governor of New York, used to say famously that you campaign in poetry, but you govern in prose. And I think last night Biden demonstrated that he can campaign in poetry.
Yes.
You know, hope and history have a rhythm. You know, he's an ally of the light and not the darkness. And just as an observation, you know, obviously we won't know until next week with the Republican National Convention, but it's hard to see how Trump's comment in Scranton, Pennsylvania yesterday, which I find troubling in any event, almost as if it's, but this president has been unconventional. But I don't know why you go to anybody's hometown on the day that he or she is accepting the nomination. But that aside, it's hard to imagine how Donald Trump would change that essential salient campaign approach suddenly next week and talk of one in hope. I suspect, all things being equal, President Trump and his campaign will continue on the path that they have laid out of scorched earth kinds of description of the future of America, and attacking. And I think, just as an observation again, that's one of the reasons why everyone during the course of the Democratic National Convention has come out in their speeches being very specific and filled with resolve. At the end of the convention, my overall impression was hope, a plan for the future, a focus on the young,
yes,
working collectively together, and then an unbelievable resolve from Michelle Obama's speech to Joe Biden's speech. And it really did inspire me, Joe's speech, of echoes of FDR with some Harry Truman thrown in there.
Oh, wow.
So it was quite interesting. And it caused me, and I don't mean to take up too much time, but it caused me to really think of this. And it was something else that I had heard another commentator make on another program. And that is this. The question was, when have we ever had a president and a vice president where the vice president has become more consequential than the president he served under. And there's one example, and that was Lyndon Johnson and John F. Kennedy. And Lyndon Johnson came through with all of the legislative actions and proposals and the Great Society. Now, what we may have here, and what we may be witnessing if Biden is elected, given his ambitious blueprint for America and his strategic plan, we may be witnessing the foundations and the inception of one of the most accomplishment-filled presidencies that we may have seen in the United States. So when he spoke in his speech about an inflection point in history, a crossroads that Governor Kasich echoed earlier in the convention, both literally when he was standing at the crossroads, as well as through his rhetoric, we could be witnessing precisely that inflection point that we see so very rarely in American history, and Joe Biden may be that consequential president. It remains to be seen. We have 75 days, and Lord knows both sides are heating up, and so I can say we're going to have to buckle up, America.
Going to get ugly.
You know what, I'm going to remind people, and I'm going to have to continue reminding them, that he did not cause this problem. He is taking on and cleaning up this mess. So during his presidency, yeah, I'm being positive here. During his presidency, he's going to have to start by cleaning up one of the world's biggest messes we've ever had, because it's not just the economics, it's our health, right? Mm-hmm. It is our truest foundations of the two things that we need to be most conscious of to sustain. Mm-hmm. So he has got a challenge. So we need to remember that he's not going to do this overnight.
No,
this is not an aspirin to fix the hangover. Okay, right. So and I know everyone's saying, well, Trump shouldn't be able to fix this overnight. Well, he certainly made a mess of it overnight. But there were some things that should be, and I should not have said that. That was a low punch. But there are some things that should be occurring that have not. And one, we never hired a pandemic team. And I wish that would be mentioned in one of the campaigns somewhere, that we're going to put in place that because this is going to happen again or continue to happen, mm-hmm. right? So we need to put the pandemic team in place, because my argument is you don't hire the firemen after the fires.
You're absolutely right.
And Kimberly, when Trump dismantled the pandemic team, he said, "I'll hire them when we need them." If we don't need them now, when will we need them?
Well, in his mind, he doesn't see the need for them, but it's not about need. It's about the cost of them versus the benefit. Okay. And that's how he's a businessman. This is what I tell people. He's a businessman. He is not a global human leader. He's a businessman, and there's a difference.
No, he's a con man. He's not a businessman.
Well, but that neither here nor there. He is purely business. So if you want somebody who all they care about is their own, I agree with you.
He's one of those people that takes advantage of others. Look at his Trump University. Look at his charity. Look at his 6 bankruptcies. You know, all the labor that he didn't pay. You know,
but that's Trump his business.
The labor's broke.
That's his business tactics. And
well,
for some
okay,
reason,
all right, then I could see he's a businessman.
That's his business tactics. I didn't say they were ethical. But ethics does not have to be legal, right? Bad ethics are not illegal. And I think Bill would agree to that in law and many bad ethics. But the thing is that he's just a businessman. And a lot of
unethical businessman. Okay.
Right. And a lot of things, most cases sometimes you would laugh at, but these are not laughing matters. The impact is not a laughing matter.
Well, you see, Kimberly, I think that, in some respects, and I don't mean to sound like a consultant from McKinsey, but you're both right, at least in this regard. Jim, on the one hand, highlighting, this notion of ethics. And Kim, you're absolutely correct. In business, those skills are not necessarily valued. However, when it comes to leading the United States, as we all know, there's a fundamental history. There's a fundamental difference in terms of the mission of what a government is. And the government is not in the business, and please, I know it's a shock, The government's not in the business of making money. Otherwise, they just continue to tax us. The government is in the business to ensure domestic tranquility, protect, and provide for the common defense, and ensure tranquility and liberty. And in that regard, Jim is correct that you need a separate set of skills. And I believe that is essentially what the Biden campaign is arguing when they say it's a matter of character, it's a matter of listening. And when the Biden campaign and Joe Biden specifically makes the argument that it is a fight for the soul of this nation. Because quite frankly, and I'd like to hear from the rest of the panel, particularly Sasha and Sharif and Willie, because internationally, our American exceptionalism has been a direct result of our capacity to lead with our heart on our sleeves, not with guns at our sides. And I believe that's what the Biden campaign is advocating. Now, it's going to be very interesting because obviously there is a very, very different school of thought, and we'll see what the Republican National Committee thinks about it and their view of a future America. But I'd like to hear from the international panel, just as an opening question, as we try to regain this notion of American exceptionalism, which is not marked or defined by dominance, but rather cooperation and shared responsibility. Sharif?
Okay, thank you, sir. Basically, this is very good things that, like you are trying to come up with the new idea, and specifically U.S. last 4 years. What we see that, even though I live in Asia Pacific, I have good relation with South Asian market. Like I can say the good information about Asia Pacific, let's say Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Vietnam, this region, as well as Asia Pacific, South Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and the relationship. If you see that one of the things I can explain to you last 4 or 5 years, because of USA do not make enough good relationship with the international community, because there are many things happening inside USA. Even from outside USA, we are observing that for global diplomacy, this is not good, or for global collaboration, this is not good. In that particular point, here in China, with their One Belt, One Road initiative, they are actually making a very good relationship with the developing nations.
Yes.
And I think that USA missing this journey, USA missing this point like 4 or 5 years, because how China try to understand, because I am from developing economy. So from the developing culture, I know how fast they grow their economy, how fast, because they have a lot of human resources. Yesterday session, I discussed about the MIT, Dr. Iqbal Kadir's business, like when they built up Grameen phone, mobile phone technology with the collaboration of European company, Telenor. So the USA also gained business. USA also move with the good collaboration. But last 4 years, this is my observations, they lose many things to China. Okay, because of the global diplomacy. This is honest opinion, and this is not my personal opinion, as I have engaged with different kind of consultancy. So if Biden come up with this global collaboration approach, or come up with the idea that they can make more effective business relationship, political relationship, diplomatic relationship, which will be really, really helpful for USA, not only for USA economy, also for USA economy as well. Even we know that in this pandemic situation, USA also lose, I don't know, like about 33% of their GDP. So it means that their business also is not in good shape. But country like developing nation like Malaysia, even example Indonesia, even example India. Yes, India and USA, they are trying to working together. Example, even Bangladesh, Pakistan, even they make the proper business relationship with proper diplomatic approach, global approach. I think it will be really, really helpful for USA. On the other hand, China already starting this journey with this One Belt, One Road initiative.
Yeah.
And yes, and whatever the Donald Trump said or the US administration said, practical thing is that this One Belt, One Road initiative will be successful. there is definitely it will be successful. Because let's say I know many mega projects in Bangladesh. Actually, these Indian corporations, sorry, and as well as this China corporation, they are doing inside. It's a $1 billion industry. On the other hand, what's the USA contribution? USA companies contribution? I do not know. Even I do not see effective relationship from the USA perspective. So definitely, this election is very important for USA, not only for political things or their internal issue or national productions and GNP issue. This is also very important for their survival, very important for their next decade after this post-pandemic. What will be the economic geography? This is really important. I think this November elections is really important for USA and USA people.
I mean, if I may, Sharif, and then I will leave it to the panel. I have to attend to another matter. But it seems to me that the approach that we, at this inflection point in American history, are at least open and willing to changing the way we think about our relationships. And perhaps a Trump presidency has caused this, for us to rethink this. But I think the term that I would use as we go through this process of reevaluation, at least internationally, would be enlightened engagement. Because that, I think, is the term that would describe how we now need to approach other nations and recognize their self-determination, but by the same token, work within a global community to achieve common goals of peace and stability, as well as the repair of relationships, and more importantly, the repair of planet Earth. But those are just thoughts. Those are my thoughts. But I will leave it to the panel, and I do want to say thank you again. It's just been wonderful, and I will try to check back in. I love you guys on the panel.
We feel the same, Bill. We don't like you to leave now. We kind of want you to stick around.
Yeah. You have a life that gets in the way of IBM TV.
I got to make some phone calls, so I'll have something else to report to our viewers worldwide.
There you go.
Now you're building another show as well, so we're looking forward to it, and we're here to support you. If you want to beam back in anytime, feel free. Do me a favor, wrap up. Do your little wrap up.
Oh,
yeah.
I love it. Do me a favor.
I'm Bill Trezevant on behalf of International Broadcast Media, broadcasting globally around the world from dictatorships to democracy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from IBM Television.
Awesome.
Thank you, Bill.
Cheers.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon too.
Okay, but don't forget to talk about the cancer moonshot.
Okay.
Because frankly, you guys are my sources as well.
Okay, so we will bring that up with the medical doctors as well, because this is a global situation. And
May I say something in response to Sharif? What you were saying, I think it's spot on, and I want to emphasize it because we had a lawyer from Nigeria on earlier, and he was well connected. He's really a business guy with a law degree, and he was saying, Africa has a lot of natural resources, and China is there, and the U.S. isn't. Because I was asking him questions about, why is China in Africa, and what are they doing? And he says, well, they're making deals. They're here. We see them, and we don't see the U.S. So, Sharif, I think you were spot on.
Yes. One thing if you allow me, one thing I just want to add, because recently, even just after this pandemic, recently I observed that U.S. diplomat, they are trying to share this Indo-Pacific corridor. Okay, it's like what the China already established, One Belt, One Road initiative, and you can trust me, and I can give you a lot of evidence. Billions and billions dollar business, mega projects, constructions, smart city projects, roads and highways, even bridges, power plants, because developing nations, they are also improving. China actually already engaged with these things. Recently we just observing USA trying to discuss on that point, and this is Indo-Pacific corridor. It's a new diplomatic point. And I do not know, but example, definitely USA politician, USA businessman, because I know that USA also has good contribution for the global economy. USA has good, USA people is completely different. What we see, the political people are doing, this is not USA. Actually, USA cultural is completely different. But example, if USA can regain their relationship, regain this kind of diplomatic issues and business, then there is a check and balance. Okay, when there is a check and balance, it's also good for business. Okay, China move. Okay, USA also moving, and there is a global perspective and the global competition. Then more quality corporations are coming. They do lot of business. But definitely, I'm very honest with you, last 4 years at least, I do not observe. Even in I have strong engagement with these years, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, even example Bangladesh, Pakistan, India. Yes, India, USA has some technology oriented contribution. That's for I'm sure. But other country, I do not find they are doing good business. So business wise, I think political leaders need to take a lot of initiative. Otherwise, China Belt and Road Initiative, definitely, it's very effective initiative. Even this pandemic situation, I think China business growth was double. More business political contract they gain, more biotechnology, like nanotechnology, like internet of things, like big data, artificial intelligence, electric vehicles. I know hundred of business contract because I work with as a consultant with different countries. So I know that China doing really well. And I think USA businessmen also need to it's a like they have to overcome from this situation. Otherwise, next decade for China, I'm sure.
The missing link there is democracy.
Willie,
China does not have democracy. You anywhere else in the world you can go, you have democracy. China's completely, it's one nation, one political party.
but they're winning.
Look at Ceylon. Look at Ceylon. That wharf that they built. Okay, now they have a port in Ceylon. China government has a port in Ceylon. When China offers you a development package, it has a big fishing hook attached to it.
Yeah.
If you can't pay, and the rate that they charge, all the countries that take loans, what will happen in Africa 10 years from now is all those countries will default.
Yeah.
And they won't be able to pay back their debt. And what happens? China has a port established. Okay, this is ours now. Okay, that's the thing that's a lot of developing countries miss by engaging China. It's not a level playing field where, okay, you doing something nice to them and vice versa.
No.
In dealing with China, China always wins.
Yes.
Always wins.
And one strategic point China has, number one, they are manufacturing countries. They are major manufacturing around the world. Anything actually China is doing. Not example USA, not and all of the other big countries. So this is their benefit.
Therein lies the problem. We're too dependent on China.
Exactly.
That is the problem. We're too dependent on China. So what we need to do now is backtrack and say, okay, we'll build it ourselves. We'll do our own. Because if we, or India,
Yeah.
Come on, India.
And also, what I think is that the COVID realizes that we are so much dependent on China that we have to make sure that we have to do the dependency and look for other allies as well, because we never get a chance,
Totally agree.
or we never give a chance to anyone else. I mean, if you talk about China, Taiwan is also similar to China. If you talk about Singapore, if you talk about Malaysia, if you talk about India, we never give chance to any other country because China was working on the manufacturing thing, and everyone was okay. Let's go to China and let's build some product and all those stuff. And that was something which China took it as a strength, and he just did it. But it creates a lot of dependency, and during COVID, we realized that. Secondly, what I believe is that a democratic country will empower other countries as well, because they never win for themselves. They win for a democracy, and then that will give power to small countries. But in case of China, they don't empower anyone. They make them dependent, and then they have to. There is no other way to back out, basically. And I'll tell you, Sharif, one more thing. I mean, you can say that China has a. I mean, next decade is for China. But if we don't create demand around the world, there won't be anything left in China, because everyone is. If everyone unite together, we can still do it. I mean, if you talk about Taiwan, if you talk about South Korea, they are also amazing countries with doing manufacturing around. I mean, amazing manufacturing inputs. In fact, in Asia and apart from China, in Asia, we can set up a lot of manufacturing plant. But the problem is that we don't have that will and guts to make it bigger like what we have in China, because of one man, one party rule. And I think that's the pros and cons for China. That is always an advantage and disadvantage, basically, because people can ask question to one man. There is no other way we can ask it out. In fact, you won't believe, yesterday in the news, Russians asked Indian government to help them manufacture those vaccines to the world. I'm not sure what's happening in that government level, but it's time to unite. It's not time to divide people. We have already divided. I mean, when we talk about US, when we talk about Russia, any country, we are always trying to divide things. But if we try to unite and help each other in, especially in the medical industry, that could be amazing, because I am still surprised. It's been like 8 months since pandemic happened, since December. No one is talking about a 20% GDP on medical infrastructure. We are not talking about medical aids. We are not talking about medical capabilities. We always talk about manufacturing plant, China, and all this stuff. Couple of days back, we have a news from Apple that Apple valued $1 trillion in sometime in February, and during the pandemic, they become $2 trillion. So it's not that China. I mean, if you talk about Apple, a lot of products are coming from China, but people are still buying American companies. I mean, so I doubt. I mean, that what will happen to China if people, because a lot of people have lose faith in China. That happens in India as well. So that's the concept that you never know about the quality of the product, because if I talk to a Chinese guy, they prefer Japanese products. You know that they are very much big fan of Japanese products.
No,
Because
okay, okay. I want to share some because I have few experience last 12 years of time. I am not only like academia. Yes, I finish my PhD, do research and the publication, but I more engaged with industry. I try to learn from industry. Try to understand. It's all about not only reliability. There are many factors are actually working. Many factor works. Look around this South Asian market because you, let's say Ankit, me, whatever, we are from South Asian market. Long time actually South Asia, even if you observe, like let's say India, I do not want to criticize, but what I want to share that is the real point of view. India is a very good economy, very big economy, undoubtedly India has. But example, Indian corporation also have business relationship, business dependency with China. I just give you example.
yeah,
Let's say India, like with this Kashmir issue with China, they have conflict, right? At the same time, you can check. Maybe you do not get this from media. At the same time, India borrowed $50 billion from China Construction Bank. Okay, $50 billion. Same times. What does it mean? Business wise, still India has dependency. Let's say this Mukesh Ambani, right? This TikTok, he also buy it 5 billion with $5 billion of dollar. So business is completely different. Media come up with the different informations, which is actually not relevant based on the industry. So still India and China has good business. Still I want to say, let's say Indian construction, Indian manufacturing, Indian many business has China and India has very good relationship. Yes, some things happen which is political. Okay, and politics always, I do not want to say that it's in right thing. Okay, so this is one thing. Sometimes they utilize political propaganda, but business wise they do different things. Philosophically they share something in media, but example in a real life industry they do another things. This is happening. On the other hand, let's say Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, even Afghanistan, even example Nepal, Bhutan, everywhere has China influence. What the reason? Try to understand. India is the biggest country in South Asia. That is sure. That is for sure. They have a big. But what's the reason? China has big influence in this South Asia. Even it's bigger than India. I'm telling you truth. China has strategically business. Yeah, this is true. This is true. That is the fact. You have to understand. Do not trust always the media thing. Media always do not give you the right information. Media using propaganda. Media using backlash. Media using wrong information. But business, I told you this. Kashmir, like media always promoting Kashmir is there is a fighting this that. On the other hand, China Construction Bank give $50 billion to India. So business is business. Business is another things. Politics is something hypocrisy, something
No, I'm not
different.
talking about politics. My
No,
concern
no.
is that we don't
Even in
depend
South
on.
Asian economy, I'm just saying India is a big brother for South Asia. That's what I'm sure. But with the collaboration of China, I want to say even Bangladesh also creating win-win situation with China. Pakistan already create. Example, Sri Lanka already create. Even they lose many business. Even politicians want to make this relationship with China. So you cannot deny. Even in Africa, what Jim said, I discussed with many of my African friends. This is true because try to understand. Let's say a African politician and local corporation. When they go to Europe or USA for business collaborations, they do not get enough support. They do not make enough strategic partnership. On the other hand, China go there. China said that, okay, if you want to do business with us, I will support you. Even small, medium entrepreneur, they give them support. Let's say for solar panel business, let's say for any kind of technology oriented business, agro-based business. China is too much of friendly. China know how to make business. On the other hand, Europe and USA, I'm very honest with you. I'm from industry. They have different cultures and different strategic point of view. That's why China growth is very fast, very fast. Even this pandemic situation, you see how many business contract you India win, or how many business contract, example, Middle East win, or how many business contract is USA or Europe win, and how many business contract is China win. Yes, still China has lot of transparency related issues and other thing, but try to understand business is completely different. It's not inside. Even in Malaysia, I told you, 80% economy, business wise, controlled by China. This is fair. They are giving support to the Malaysia. Malaysia has a huge economy, and they also have many big infrastructure. China support that. Even example, solar panel. Malaysia is a producer of solar panel, and I think they are in fourth position. But they are getting many support and other things from China. So that is the things when an economy has a real collaborative attitude. You have to understand collaborative attitude. Something, okay, I do not want to do that. I do not want to do that. This is conflict of interest. What we see in US politics. On the other hand, USA do not, China do not they are not more focused on politics. They are more focused on business. I'm very honest with you. Maybe they do not have enough democracy. This is another thing, but they do more focus on business relationship. They're 100%. I told you I teach in Chinese people in even from the Chinese boys, those who are like 8-10 years old, or children, very young, from classroom they try to sell something. This is their attitude. They try to sell something. So this is their culture. They love to do business. They do not love too much of politics. So that is the things. But definitely India has talent. Definitely India has many unique people. USA has talent. Europe has talent. Russia has talent. Japan has talent. Yes, if we can make I like Ankit approach. Ankit always say global citizenship. Global citizenship. This is actually right approach, because we cannot think I am from Bangladesh or Malaysia, whatever it is, or Ankit cannot think that, okay, he is from India or whatever it is. We have to think globally. So when global team come, let's say someone come from USA, someone come from China, someone come from Japan, someone come from Africa or Europe, then it will be a perfect team. What I see in IBM TV, IBM TV has global perspective. That's why IBM TV is a fastest growing startup. Right. This is the reason. So every aspect in the business,
Sharif,
we need collaboration.
so I tell you one thing, I completely agree with you. But when we talk about China, we talk about Chinese government. We don't have none of us have any problem with the Chinese general population and people. We are not friends with China, and also why? Because the transparency is not there. We don't know what's happening in China, why it's happening, and what because and that hampers to the economy of the world basically. And we don't want to be dependent on one country. We don't want to dependent on Apple. That's why we are
Exactly.
Google.
Right,
So it's
right.
like that. It's simple as that. I mean, we don't want our dependency on one thing, and that's why we have a see, in the world right now, there are like 10 or maybe 20 companies are working on the vaccine.
Yes, yes.
Okay, everyone knows that only top five companies will go to the $1 billion mark. Rest everyone is doing good. I mean, but they can't be a $1 billion company. But still, they're working it out because everyone will have their own. Understanding, and everyone will have their own quality and standards, and then people buy it according to the marketing and whatever it is. Because it's not about right now; they have to take vaccines in future as well. So I think it's more about theories. If Jim has something to say, then we'll go to Sasha and Billy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to give the U.S. perspective is that we always think we're number one. And what we're talking about here, what Sharif was talking about, and what my friend in Nigeria was talking about, is that China's already won. And so it's over as far as that's concerned. So we're number two. We have to try harder. And this is why the election is so important to us, because we have one person who's dividing us. And what we need is unification, not only in America, but around the world. And so we need this to unify this spirit, because as Willie was pointing out, if China keeps winning and ends up winning in the way that I hope it does not, the consequences will be felt 10 years later, and we will all be the worse for it.
Exactly, exactly.
Sasha, you want to
Sasha.
add something?
Yeah, I can add something. First of all, let me address the understanding of democracy. It's a beautiful word. It's a fantastic word. But let me remind you a history of civilization. The most successful empires were not built by democrats. They were built by Alexander the Great, Chinggis Khan, Napoleon. Neither of them was Democrat. Stalin, Democrat? Probably not. So the democracy is a wonderful word, but it's not necessarily that it will always win and prevail. In fact, more often it fails. Now, even when it prevails, if you are remembering the Greek, ancient Greek democracy, they were all slave owners. Slaves could not participate in the social life, elections in Athens. Absolutely not. Our fathers of U.S. democracy, most of them were slave owners, and they never thought about stop enslaving people until much later, about 100 years later or so. Speaking about China, China is in Africa. Do you really understand what China is doing in Africa? They're opening schools, hospitals. They have Chinese language courses. So all people in Africa where China is active, primarily it's natural resources. They are bringing not just machinery, people to work. They're bringing their culture, their way of life. And once people getting accustomed to that, they don't need US or Europe or anybody else. They'll be fine using Chinese approach, way of life, technology, capital, and other means. Okay. Um, now, you're saying, Jim, that China has won. Well, okay, I can agree with that. All US can do is to stop this bleeding, what's happening right now under the Trump power, and return to normalcy and slowly rebuild its relationship with other countries. First of all, with their allies, with Western European countries, then with other countries. And it will take time, it will take years. Because remember that after Second World War, America was the only game in town. It was so much stronger, richer, and powerful compared to others. There was no comparison. And America was able to build its soft power based on its strategic advantages. The soft power, I mean, it's movies, it's technology, it's culture, it's music, and many other things. So the US had an incredible amount of soft power, and all other countries follow US not because some dictator told them, oh, you have to follow US, do it. No, they were attracted to US. It's not happening anymore. Under the Trump, US broke long-term relationship with Western European countries, and nobody trusts US anymore. That's the result of Trump presidency. This president inflicted as much harm to the United States of America as all previous presidents put together. I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sasha. So we'll start with Willie. Before I would like to welcome Dr. Ramesh Barrier, joining us today on MedPad Doctors. Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
Fine, doing fine, very much doing.
Good.
How is the monsoon in Kerala now?
Oh, it's very heavy. Namaste. Very heavy.
Okay.
Because floods were there in northern part of northern and southern part of Kerala. Fortunately, we are in the middle part, not much affected. But we had an air crash. You all know that in Karipur,
Yeah.
Calicut
yeah.
Airport, there was an air crash, and it was so sad.
Yes.
But again, that was over because of the presence of mind of the pilot and the active, because without taking care of themselves, the rescue workers, they did a wonderful job to save the lives of the victims, and then fortunately we had survived.
They should make a movie out of that. We did.
Yeah, very true. Because in this COVID scenario, actually everybody is afraid, because here the community spread also is very much there. So if everybody stays at home, nobody would have been there to help these people. But the people in that area took a decision that whether COVID comes or not, they are least bothered about their own health, and took the victims directly to the, and that saved a lot of lives. So
That is humanity basically, because during
that
this.
is a wonderful lesson that we learn from them. Yes.
So, Dr. Ramesh, I mean, during this COVID, everyone is talking about vaccines and all, but we are still reading about those side effects to the vaccines, and people are still scared what's happening, because there's a lot of news in the media about vaccine that you need to have 2 shots or 1 shot, and there would be some side effects. In fact, Russians mentioned that if you take Russian vaccine, you have some fever for like 24 to 48 hours, and that could be a mild to a medium fever. So, what's your take on that? And can we overcome something to Ayurveda to avoid those side effects? Because these are just preliminary talks happening from different parts of the world.
Yeah. Of course, I think that when we are not, we have to accept that, because vaccines are a need of the time right now, no doubt about it. But our only apprehension, or to the request to the world, is that actually in this particular scenario of COVID, I don't know whether we have made it so fast without studying it properly, that we don't know. Many people say that actually more and more studies are required before actually using it in massive scale. That we don't know, because that only the people who are making it, whether it is Europe, US, Russia, or Indian people who are really working on that, should tell us. I think that they have done sufficient homework, and when you read so many both the sides, because usually a vaccine has mild side effects. So far, we have observed that actually 2 to 3 days or maximum 4 or 5 days, you will have mild fever, body ache, malaise, or some giddiness, or some rashes in some people, which is generally manageable with. In modern medicine they use acetaminophen or paracetamol, what we call. But people who are allergic, in one of the tests I have heard that people who are allergic to paracetamol were not included in the study. So that shows that actually, then how do we help them? So there can be some issues even after giving the shots of vaccine. Of course, Ayurveda definitely recommends boosting up of immunity, because in my earlier shows I have discussed about three types of immunity what Ayurveda was discussing. One is Sahajam, which is the innate healing potential. Second is the Kalajam, that is another terminology used in Ayurveda. Kalajam means it is because of the season, variation of seasons. You will have so many changes in the hormonal levels and your immunity boosting takes place. And according to our age also, in teenage you have full-fledged immunity, whereas when you get aged, naturally when the hormonal levels vary, you will feel less eminent. More than all these things, the basic thing, because if you have a basic immunity only, all the vaccines will work. If you don't have the ability, if your body don't have the ability to work on that vaccine, because living attenuated organisms are injected, and from there only we are producing the antibody. So at that time, our body should have the basic strength to accommodate this thing and react. So these aspects are the basic things of vaccine. So I feel that let us hope for the best. It's too early because this virus is actually a new thing. Last December only it has come. Its actual pathophysiology was not at all clear. Still, lot of studies are required to study about that. That is the only apprehension. So when you develop a vaccine, now so many varieties of because it mutates. So this mutation makes the genetic structure of the virus completely different. So at that time, one vaccine may not be sufficient. You may have to use different varieties of vaccine to control. But of course, no doubt about it. It's a positive. We are seeing it very positively. And the immunity best remedy is always boosting up our own immunity. No doubt about that. Ayurveda particularly discusses in many disease contexts when the treatment becomes difficult, when treatment becomes confused, what to do. They immediately recommend that you always take care of your immunity. So that then the medicine, whatever low potency medicine you are giving, that will also help. The immunity will boost up, and the effect of that medicine administered, and that will help. I think that theory in Ayurveda is very much applicable in the case of vaccines. So vaccines are good, and the effort, we should congratulate them, the effort what they are taking, all the nations to produce vaccines. But we need to be very, very observant when you put it in mass scale. What all things are going to happen, we may have to observe, and then only we can come. This is what in a
Well
nutshell.
said. Well said. And also, during the pandemic, we discussed about kada, we discussed about ginger, garlic.
Yeah, yeah,
In
yeah,
fact, we
yeah,
discussed about turmeric and all those things. Where do you rate neem,
yeah.
our neem in this process?
No, the thing is that actually the Ayurveda discusses about pandemics, because in Charaka Samhita, I have discussed this earlier also. They very clearly, their strategy is that if you are expecting a pandemic, what we need to do that prepare all the medicines before the crisis comes and keep it there. Then they are discussing about boosting up your immunity. But how do we do that? They are thinking, this is discussing about a cleansing of the body. and then use rasayan. Rasayanas are the rejuvenative type of drugs which boost up the immunity. Another aspect Ayurveda discusses is that actually many a time modern medicine goes to analytical um, methods. There they give the vaccine just to boost up the T cell activity or the B cell activity or the killer cells activity. So it becomes selective. And when you become more selective, we don't know what is going to happen because there is a terminology called cytokine storm. Because in COVID, that was the main issue which was obstructing in the development of the vaccine. Because in the earlier studies, the cytokines are actually our protectors. But because of the nature of the virus, the body gets confused and the cytokines, so many excessive cytokines are released. So this actually prevents the action of the vaccine. That was the real issue they were facing in many studies I've read.
Wow.
So they were exploring whether any other, because any chemical agents in modern medicine or any alternative system of medicine, natural product like ginger, pepper, or something like that, which can control the cytokine storm, and then the vaccine becomes active. Because many experiments we need to see because now we are doing something in COVID cell lines itself. One of our product we have, but it is too early to say anything about that. We have given in a modern medicine lab where in cell line of COVID virus, they are going to test it. So that kind of activities also may be complementing to the side effects of vaccine. Sometimes because if you are in a position to reduce the virility of the virus, even in a small dose, the vaccine may be more effective. So those kind of collaborative and open-minded studies need to be done. This is my humble opinion about vaccine.
And Dr. Ramesh, I mean, I wanted to know specifically about the neem tree. What do you
Yeah,
think about the neem, I mean, consumption during this time?
yeah,
And
that is
also, a
definitely
lot of our
because
viewers, and also a lot
I
of our
have
viewers are not familiar with the neem tree, so you have to explain in that manner so that they understand what is neem
yeah,
tree because
not
it's
only need, not
yeah,
only need, because all the spices, because Indian spices have specifically done this, that is actually the oxygen radical absorption capacity.
Ah,
That is most seen in all the spices. For example, I think that in the study it has shown cinnamon was the best, yeah, among them. Then
wow.
clove, then ginger, then this black pepper. All these have got a capacity to improve the free radical scavenging so that the oxygen binding capacity of the blood increases. And that natural. And that is where Ayurveda differs from modern medicine. Ayurveda discusses about boosting of the general immunity and the body's wisdom, that we are not going for T cells, B cells, or something like that. We are giving whatever is explained in the text, we are giving it as such, as a whole, drug as a whole. That is the holistic approach of Ayurveda. So at that time, the body's wisdom select these items, whether it is needed for T cells, whether it is needed for B cells, whether it is needed for natural killer cells, that the body decides. So naturally, the side effects should be less because it is body's wisdom we are making use of. So at that time, when you give another vaccine, of course, because that will be more effective, more predictable, but the undesired effect, of course, Ayurveda, for example, neem, as you are rightly telling, neem has got anti-inflammatory and immunomodulatory action. Most of the drugs have got, I would like to specifically tell the immunomodulatory, not immune enhancing, because many of the I am telling that in the CMPR, Center for Medicinal Plant Research, we have a unit here. They are doing the chemical profiling of so many plants. It is an its passport data. Everything is recorded and documented. So there we observe very clearly that mini has got antiviral as well as immunomodulatory action, not immunosuppressants or immunostimulant. So immunomodulatory means that adjusts the immune system according to the need of the eye. So that is why these becomes more safe to use. Ayurvedic drugs or herbs becomes more safe to use. So that is true with neem also. Yeah.
I would like to just thank you for all the information, and
Yeah.
and I wanted to let you know from previous shows in this show what I have been able to do and what I am not doing.
Yeah.
So I do ginger, turmeric,
Yeah.
basil, black pepper,
Yeah.
and I don't do clove, and I haven't been
Yeah.
doing cinnamon. So how do I get those
Yeah.
into my diet?
Yeah, you can, because when you prepare diet, sir, what you can do is that you can put ginger, cinnamon paste, and even garlic also can be used. One thing. Second thing, if you have cinnamon, ginger, and this tulasi, tulasi, I don't, basil leaves. If you get the basil and then pepper. These four things are the recommended one by the Ayush department for Ayush Kwatha Churna. So what we do that, actually you boil the water, adding in 1 liter water, you put all these things in equal quantity, boil it and keep it in a flask. In lukewarm condition, you use it. That is one aspect. Second thing, you gargle. When you gargle, you can use haldi and ginger, so that, because what the all studies say that ACE2 inhibit receptors. There is actually the virus get involved directly to that. It is so many ACE2 receptors are there in your nose, throat,
Yeah.
trachea, and all. So
Yeah.
at that time, when you gargle and take steam, when you take steam, put basil leaves in that. So that also has got a medicated effect. And and i i used to wash inside my this, and I was telling about a if you have lavender oil, if you have this cinnamon oil, or whatever it may be, clean the nostril and apply it internally, because that also prevent the virus from easily getting absorbed. So we are preventing it right from the beginning, entering into our body. And of course, the eyes can be washed. We use, because in my this thing we are using a particular, but that is a prepared medicine called Kachayapanam, which is a combination of herbs, honey, and this thing. We put it in your eyes, so eyes water down, and then if any virus gets inside, it will be washed off.
I see.
So applying all these things in this thing, you can use triphala, or I will tell you a simple remedy which is safe also. Tea. If you get tea, boil the tea,
Yeah.
and then in a very lukewarm or cold this thing, use it on your eyes, which is or water from the what we sometimes do that. If you have clean yogurt, Chawanprash, you can
Yeah, very good.
definitely, yeah.
Pancake, you're right on.
I
Product
will let
placement.
you a home remedy. It is a this you filter the yogurt, so you will get the water from the yogurt. Put
Yeah.
a little bit sugar and honey. It should be fresh and kept in a good condition, and that can be applied for the eyes, and that also helps in soothing the eyes. So these are certain tips I was just discussing.
Thank you very much.
That's wonderful.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
And I think
Hello, bro.
Dr.
Hello,
Smith,
Dr. Simon. Welcome to
Yeah.
our show today. Good to see you both. So we
think
were
this-
just talking about how to boost our immune system with the various herbs and
Yeah.
spices.
These are certain preventive aspects that we were
Right,
discussing.
prevention.
So, and boosting up our immune system. And of course, earlier thing, basically for immune system, you have to, you should have a good nutritious diet, and your mind should be tension free. then you should have exercises, regular walking and all. Then only immune and your metabolism should be kept very vibrant. Then naturally your immune system also will be more boosted up. And medicines comes only next to this one. So this is very important in keeping our life. And bad thoughts, definitely, because I think that everybody now, it's a right time for the world to think about positive thoughts, because the world has become a rat race everywhere, including and our education system has also become like that. What is more important is power and money, nothing else. No moral values, nothing is given importance. And even in the schools, colleges, earlier we used to learn ethics, but no ethics. Now ethics has
Yes.
gone to very slowly. It was taken away from the syllabus. You are only thinking about how to make money, how to grab power, how to control people. Even in the management schools are also that was the so the basic value what we are the human beings are money. So we are losing our next. I am actually very much concerned. I'm opening up my mind very honestly, very sincerely. Our next generation, we are getting age. Next generation, if you don't teach them the values of, because it's a global village, whether you are an American, Indian, or African. No, because I liked the Vice President candidate Kamala Harris speech last this thing. She was telling that we should have a this thing
Family
not
values.
tolerant. We should love everybody, because that kind of attitude we should develop in our own children. Then only the world will be a place where we can live safely. Otherwise, we are ruining our own next generation
Yes.
because in America only in Rock Garden in Tennessee, when I visited Rock Garden, in the entrance there was a saying that you have to live in this world as if you have borrowed it from your next generation, not as if you have received it from your ancestors. What a beautiful and this, because this is very true, because earlier people were living without exploiting the prakriti or the nature. We take whatever we want and preserve it for the next generation. The water we keep without pollution, the air we keep without pollution, all the rivers, all the resources, all the natural resources we maintain for the next generation. But
Yes.
we have started exploiting it only, and that only for our own purpose. Human beings, we are least bothered about other creatures in the planet, and now we are facing the problem. Mother Earth cannot be tolerant always. She will
Yes.
hit
So that's
back.
why we will get by.
We're the
Yeah,
That's why we
virus.
will see
natural
ways
calamities.
and it's
Now
trying to.
I mean, ice is melting in the poles. We don't know.
Yeah.
So all these are human creation.
Well, Dr.
So
Sagu, aren't you a living example of having prepared your immune system so that when the virus did attack you, you had mild symptoms and
yeah,
survived it?
Yeah.
So, so what were the things that you were doing? I know you were doing turmeric. Were you doing
yeah,
cinnamon and
yeah.
cloves?
These are the things I told you. Whatever I am
Yeah.
doing, I have explained to you. And
Yes.
then, of course, social distancing, exposure, cleanliness, such things
Yes.
you have to, and drink water, because viruses usually passes through urine. So you have to, many a time what happens is that in rainy season and winter season, we tend to drink less water. So drink sufficient quantity of water so that you will urinate and a lot of virus. So we are trying. We are sometimes we may not be able to completely avoid the viral attack because we are living among them. So many contaminations, so many community spreads are there. But if you are successful in maintaining your immunity and maintaining the viral load. So the attack will be milder. And you will, and so many, in India, you can see that in so many areas, death rates are very less. And the recovery rates, especially in Kerala, the recovery rate is very, very good, very good. Elderly people are also recovering well. Maybe our earlier exposure to these kind of infections may be one reason. Another thing that many people are aware about what I was discussing because they are ancestrally doing so many things. Now, so many phone calls I am getting. I was practicing in Delhi, from Delhi also, from all over my, because patients call and they start taking medicines. I'm not talking about prepared medicines. I'm talking about natural medicine which is available in our kitchen, the herbs we find around us. This has a potential to help us. So that we have to recognize, we have to realize that, utilize all. This is in a
That's very well
nutshell.
said. That's very well said by Dr. Ramesh, and it's time to introduce to all our panelists, to our viewers, basically. So, and I think Sharif needs to go to bed now. Thank you, Sharif, for joining us today, and have a good night. And we'll see you tomorrow on Sharif School of Economics at 5 a.m. EST, and it's 2 a.m. for Jim, and then it starts at 2:30 IST India time and 5 p.m. Malaysian time, only on IBM
Yeah.
TV, Sharif School of Economics. So do join us on that show.
So yeah, anybody want to join in these shows, they can join. Hopefully, it will be very interesting session. Thank you.
You don't
Thank
want
you,
them to
everybody.
see me at 2 a.m. though.
So maybe for Jim, maybe you can join a repeat telecast.
I can join you what?
You can join a repeat telecast of Sharif School of Economics.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Bye.
Goodbye, Sharif.
Yeah, bye bye.
And I would like to introduce to all my panelists one more time. So we have Jimate joining us from California, and he does Chef Without Borders on IBM TV, and he's part of our family on IBM TV. We have Sasha Star, and also known as Alexander Star from Canada, Toronto. He does multiple shows on IBM TV, starting with Test starts on Saturday, and we are coming up with the World Championship on 29th August. Is that so, Sasha? On 29th
Yes.
August, we have a World Championship going on Chess Starts.
Yeah, on August 29th, it's following Saturday, we're going to have a contest between grandmasters Suat Amalik from Turkey and Mikhail Marin from Romania. They never played before, so it will be a very interesting contest. We have cash prizes for winners and commentaries. Hopefully, Yasser Serawan will be able to provide commentaries. So it will be quite interesting event. We'll see.
And then apart from chess show, Sasha also does the Wednesday show with us, Modern Investing with Sasha. And if someone wants to invest in some stock, Sasha will definitely help you out to get some liquidity going on. And that's with Sasha. And then we have Dr. Ramesh joining us from Kerala. And he's an Ayurveda specialist. And we discuss about immunities and all those stuff. How Ayurveda can be a life changer and a lifestyle in future. It's there in the past as well, but still a lot of people started following during the pandemic. So that's Dr. Ramesh's views on Ayurveda. We have Dr. Saggu joining us from Delhi, and he's a bariatric surgeon, and he's a part of our family on IBM TV. He does the show on Saturdays, talk show with Dr. Saggu, and we're talking from diabetes to cancer to bariatric to everything. I mean, so you can ask anything. Dr. Saggu will definitely come out and respond. And Dr. Saggu is also one of the few doctors in the world who also gave the plasma donation during the COVID, because he suffered from COVID and then he thought of donating the plasma as well. So we'll discuss about that. And then we have our own brother from Nigeria, Michael. He does our show Mind Clothed 101 on Friday at 6:30 India time, 9 a.m. EST and 3 p.m. Nigerian time. And that's an amazing show from Nigeria. So that's for the panelists we have. We'll start with Dr. Saggu. So, sir, what's going on? And we are still seeing the rise in the cases in India. What are your thoughts, and are we on the right track at this point of time?
Yeah, before going to that part, I was listening to Dr. Ramesh also, and he nicely said about the immunity boosters and some sort of supplements and some sort of the good practices which we should be following to boost up immunity. And I always say that, I mean, by boosting your immunity, You cannot prevent the infection to occur, but yes, you can decrease the impact of the infection. You can decrease the impact of the virus. And it is always said that in spite of controlling the others, if you can control yourself, your inside, your outside, and if you can, stop yourself from spoiling the natural resources, I think we are not having we are not going to have some natural calamities, and definitely the world would be good as a global village for us. As far as the India is concerned, yes, India is on the rising path. We have a lot of patients. Now, the number of the patients, they are increasing, but the recovery is good because, I mean, so many reasons are there behind. Even Dr. Ramesh mentioned few of the reasons. So I would like to say the number one reason is that in India, we have our culture. In our culture, we have a joint families. So all our elders, they are living with us. So the elders, they are not living in older homes in the care houses. So if we keep all the elders in one house, the infection chances of infection is more. When the elders are living with the youngers, definitely their immunity is also on the higher side. The infection to all those elders who are living with the youngers is less. Plus, if they got infected, they can be recovered very nicely if they're living with the youngers. So we are taking care of them nicely. Number two, we are already prone to a lot of infections, whether it is a tuberculosis, whether it is a chikungunya, or all type of viruses we have experienced of the viruses, and we have already won against a lot of viruses. So that may be the reason that immunity against these infectious diseases higher in case of the Indian, or we can or in cases of the Asian people. Number three, we believe in nature. I mean, everybody believe in the nature, but maybe in the Asian subcontinent, we more believe in the nature, and we can say we are more near to the nature. So that is why the infection rate is slightly in the younger group, not in the elder group. And if the infection is in the younger group, definitely the recovery is more, and because the youngers have good immunity and they can fight back regarding this virus very nicely. So infection definitely will go because it's already community spread in India, and infection will go on. You will see the lots of number, and even the numbers which we are seeing. I always say that the number which you have at present, that is around 2 weeks older.
Yeah.
So it is not today's number because around 60-70% people, they are not getting the test done. They are already they are home quarantine, and during the home quarantine they are taking care of everything as they're under isolation. They're not getting the test done, and even the test capacity is also not that much high so that we can test the huge population in India. So this number, they are, you can say, I mean, these are the number of the test positive patients, but these are not the number of the COVID patients. So the COVID patients may be more. So
Yeah.
we should not be scared of, afraid of. We should not be thinking of the total number of the infected patients, but we should be thinking of the total number of the severely sick patients who have a severe complication. Those who are admitted in the hospital, those who are admitted in the intensive care units, those with other comorbid condition like diabetes, like hypertension, obstructive sleep apnea, and other conditions, because the chronic kidney disease, because those are the people who needs more care, and those are the people who have low immunity. Those are the people who need to be observed very nicely, even if they are not having the infection. So the basic criteria is to focus on those people who are have more vulnerable to have infection. So if we can, so we always say, earlier we were saying that we should follow this type of measures, social distancing, the hand hygiene, and everything. Yes, we did everything. I being a healthcare worker, I always, I mean, in the back of the mind, I was thinking that one day I'm going to have a COVID, because I cannot escape myself from the COVID, because I'm in the ocean of the COVID. When we are seeing a lot of patients, 50, 60, or
Yeah.
100 patients on the daily basis. So we are already living in the ocean of the COVID. How can we spare ourselves from the COVID? But at least what is in your hand? In your hand is boost up your immunity and let the impact of the virus should be on the lower side. So that was my planning since January and February. I was doing all those things, all those good practices, we can say. Maybe I was also not following the good practices earlier. So we started in January and February. The regular supplementation is very, very good. B1, B6, and B12. Then vitamin C, vitamin E is very good. I was taking the turmeric is very good. I was taking the ginger. I was taking the basil leaves. So all these three combination of all three things, they are very good. Plus good exercise. If you can do exercise, yoga, meditation, anything for at least 1 to 1.5 hour daily, I think you can double up your immunity. So all these best practices, if you can follow, definitely you can lose your weight, you can reduce your obesity, plus you can increase your immunity. So I always say that the 5 points of boosting your immunity in this COVID crisis. Number one, your diet has to be very good. Focus on your diet. Low carb diet, high liquid diet, high fiber diet, low fat diet, and high protein diet. So diet has to be very good. Number two, should do exercise or any sort of physical activity. That is very important. Number three is alcohol and tobacco. If you're taking, then you should be avoiding all these things. You have to decrease your alcohol, decrease your tobacco. Then you have to manage your stress level. You have to decrease your stress, because if the stress is on the higher side, definitely you're going to have a low immunity, because the stress will eat your immunity. When the stress will eat your immunity, then you will not be having that much of immunity that can fight with the virus. The last is sleep. I would not say it's the last, it's the first and most important thing in our life. The most important in our life is the sleep. You should not having only the good duration sleep, but good quality sleep also. The quality of the sleep has to be very good. And for the good quality of the sleep, again, you have to follow a lot of measures, that before going to sleep, at least for 2 hours, you should not be having multiple thoughts. Your brain has to be at the peace level. Decrease your carbohydrate contents before going to sleep. And at least if you cannot decrease the carbohydrate content, then you should decrease the simple sugars at night, because of what the simple sugars says. Simple sugars, they digested very early, and they causes increase in the insulin surge, and that will cause the hypoglycemia. And once you will take the simple sugar at night, you must have experienced about that. You eat a chocolate at night, 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock, you will be hungry, because there is an increased insulin surge that will cause the hypoglycemia, and you will feel hungry. So in spite of that, if you take the complex sugars, that which digested very, very slowly, so that will make a plateau level during your sleep at night, and till 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, this complex sugar will give you the proportionate level of the energy in the night, and then you will not have you will not feel hungry at night. And another thing, I mean, please do less activities before going to sleep. Calm your brain, do some meditation, do some prayers, thank God for everything, whatever you have done. So because going to sleep is like going from your life. The end of the day is the end of your life. You just thank for the things which has happened during the day, because I don't know whether I'm going to wake in the morning or not. So you should be thankful to the God. Make your brain very peaceful, so that you have a good sleep, and in the morning with the sunrise, again you will be fresh.
That's very well said by Dr. Sadhu. And also, sir, we would like to know about the vaccine which is released from Russia. And is there any news about vaccine in India?
Yeah, there is a good news that lot of vaccine candidate has been approved by the WHO. Around 30 candidates, they have already been completed their clinical trials, and now now they're in the last phase. You can the final or advanced clinical trials, that is the international patient trials, and around 120 candidates are there who are in the preclinical trials. So they are going to start the clinical trials. But the good news is, among all these, the top 30 vaccines, I think India has three vaccine out of all three. Two have the local made vaccine. One is by the Bharat Biotech, that is a Covaxin, and second is by the Zydus, that is a Zydcova. So these two vaccines, they are locally made here. They completed around 2 phases of the clinical trials. Now they have entered into the advanced clinical trials. And the third one is from the University of Oxford, and that also being made by the University of Oxford. But now for those vaccines, the ICMR had started some clinical trials at 3 places in India also, and one of that is the Post Graduate Institute in Chandigarh. So we have started the clinical trials, advanced clinical trials for all these 3 vaccines, and around 17 centers have been selected, and around 1,500 of the volunteers has already been selected for the advanced clinical trials in India. So I think everybody, I mean, this is a global village. Every country is going to start or going to do the things on the betterment for the virus. So everybody is, they are doing their full effort. They're putting their full efforts to develop some vaccines so that we can decrease the impact of the virus. But nobody knows how would effective this vaccine would be, because the vaccine means it should be safe and it should be effective. The safety measures already been completed for all these 150 candidates, but the clinical trials phase 1 and phase 2 has been completed for the 30 vaccines, and now the advanced clinical trial has already started for these 30 vaccines, and out of these 30, the 3 candidates, they are from India. So I think at the end of this year, we can have a good news regarding the vaccine.
And also, sir, there was a news yesterday on the media that Russian are interested to tie up or do an alliance with India regarding the vaccination production. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, I think I have heard about that. That some Russian companies they are trying to tie up with the Indian companies. But yes, I mean, so wherever it would be, maybe from Russia, maybe from British, maybe from US, Australia, China, Wuhan, Beijing, from anywhere. If we can get a vaccine, that would be a good idea for our older people, for our comorbid people, for our vulnerable group of the people, so that at least we can save them from having infection, or if there is infection, that we can fight with that virus.
Dr. Sagu, we have, if we develop an effective vaccine, and that's an if still, it certainly should be administered to anybody that's in crisis. But because it is a novel virus, we simply have not had the time to do long-term studies. So we cannot be completely confident that the side effects or some other impact of taking the vaccine might surface later. So we're still in a danger zone even when we do our clinical trials.
Yeah. So at least we should complete our clinical trials, because the safety trials has already been completed for all. I mean, they are safe. But regarding the effectiveness, efficacy, the clinical trials they are going on, maybe we have not received the result of the clinical trial phase 1 and 2. So I think within 1 month span, we'll get the result for the phase 1 and phase 2, and advanced clinical trials has already been started. So once the results of the phase 1 and phase 2 will come out, and the result of the advanced trial will come out, definitely there would be, large scale of production of these vaccines would be there, and I think we can benefit. But again, the fingers are crossed. We don't know the efficacy of this. This may be effective. This may be effective for 15 days, for 1 month, for 2 months, 3 months. We don't know. Even for the natural infection, because I already had the COVID, and then I donated plasma also. I'm doing it right now also. So I have antibodies, but I don't know whether, I had a large viral load, and because of the large viral load, the amount of the antibodies is also on the higher side. So even after the natural infection, your antibodies can wane off within 2 or 3 months, which the studies has already been done on that. And they say these antibodies are only for the 2 or 3 months. So when we are talking about the vaccine, there is only few inactivated viruses, or few part of your protein, or few part of mRNA or the DNA. So how effective they would be, I don't know. How long their antibody will stay in the body, we don't know.
But my question was to you. You said that the safety trials have been done, but if the long-term effects are, say, minor damage to my liver, if this vaccine causes that, you haven't been able to detect that in these early trials. So these long-term consequences of my damage to my internal organs may not be evident in a short-term study of the safety effects.
Yes. So we can say, Jim, like that, because we have an experience of the vaccine in the past. We have already been given a lot of vaccines where even the live viruses, live bacteria are there. We are injecting for DPT, and all those vaccines, and even we developed some type of serums, horse serum for venom, for snake bite, and all. So all those, the serums and all those vaccines we are giving since ages, and we have not seen any type of the side effect after that. But same way we can say that about, because what we are giving the some part of the protein of that virus, or we are giving some inactivated virus, or we are giving DNA or RNA. So I don't think there would be any problem. But yes, for the after the long term, we cannot say whether it would be safe or not, if they are going to damage your liver or something, that we cannot comment upon.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And sir, also there was a news in the media. I read about in the international media is that if the vaccine is trial to the black community, they are having some kind of side effects and infection as compared to the other communities. Do you know anything about that?
Sorry, can you repeat your question, please?
So the
Sorry.
question is that in the international media there was a news that if they are applying vaccines, the COVID vaccine to the black community, they are having some kind of side effect, which is not being seen in the other community. So there is some kind of
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
reaction to the black community. So
Yeah.
what do you?
Yeah. That is why, Ankit, the trials has been designed like that only. There are three phases of the trial. One is the preclinical, then the clinical trial. They have three phases. The phase one is for the domestic patients. Phase two starts with the international, and phase three starts all over the globe. So before we try on the international patients, the manufacturer of the Indian vaccine, they are trying in the US, they are trying in Australia, and maybe England, or maybe in China also. So after we complete all phases of trials, then we complete each and every community. You know, after completing the trials on the each and every community, uh, then only we say that this vaccine is safe or effective. But now, for that we need a lot of time. But now, because of the emergency, even the phase one, phase two, they completed in a short span
Yeah.
because of the emergency. So even we are completing all the communities, but even then we can escape some of the community, and there may be some sort of experiences in in other communities also. Yeah, that's true. That can happen.
Yes.
So, sir, a general citizen like me, we are concerned about a couple of things. Firstly, is that what are the side effects? How we can overcome those side effects. Secondly, what are the long-term consequences after taking the vaccine? And thirdly, we have read that there are multiple mutations going around the world right now. So there are like mutations, which is Indian mutation as compared to a Malaysian or an American or an Australian or an African mutation. Would that one vaccine be, able to sort out all those things? And also, if I'm traveling to Africa, maybe next year, do I have to take a medicine or do I have to take a vaccine before I go to Africa? So there are a lot of questions for a general audience to understand how they think that they will get back to normal after taking all those vaccines.
So, well, before answering to your question, I would like to say this is COVID pandemic. This is not an endemic in one country, right?
Right.
And this happens first time. This is a pandemic. It means the virus is spread all over the world, all over the globe at the same time. So, if I talk about some sort of complications or some sort of side effect of the vaccines, yes, in there are acute complications for the vaccine, and there's the chronic complication of the vaccine. In acute, whenever we inject any vaccine, there may be, because the vaccine is an antigen which is being injected inside the body, and
Yeah.
then there is a development of the antibodies against that antigen. So this is the principle of any type of vaccine which is antigen based. And the other is the serum based vaccines, which are the serums basically. They already contain the antibodies against the particular virus. That is the convalescent plasma therapy is the same type of example, or horror serum against the snake bite is also that kind of example. And you can say the tetanus serum is also that type of the example, where the antibodies are ready-made antibodies, they are being injected to the patient. So in any type of the vaccine, that will increase your immunity, right? So if we put an antigen, that will develop the antibodies, right? So that will increase your immunity. The immunity, it is a you can say it is like a sword. So this is dangerous also, immunity. and this is safer also. So because of that only, I mean, if we talk about the COVID, when the virus enters into the epithelial cells, they replicate in the epithelial cells, then they start destroying the epithelial cell, then the alveoli of the lungs, it is going to damage. How it will damage? Because initially there is a decrease in immunity, and in the stage 3 or in the severe complication, there is an increased surge of your immunity. So then the body cannot understand whether the body is making antibodies against its own tissues. So then the antibodies are being developed in the body against our own lung tissues. So that is why those antibodies, they are going to destroy that lungs, and this is the severe complication of COVID. So increase of the immunity is also very dangerous. The same thing happened in the vaccine. When the vaccine is being injected, it will increase the immunity. If there is an acute increase in the immunity, there can be allergic reaction. There may be anaphylaxis. There may be anaphylaxis shock. There may be allergy all over the body. So these are the acute infections. In the chronic infections, the immunity can go down also. Then you are prone to have more infections. So, I mean, complication is there for everything, whatever we eat.
That's true.
We drink water. The water also has a complication. If the water will go into the trachea and the windpipe, you will have a problem. Even you may die. So everything has a complication. Everything has a side effect. Whatever we eat food. If we don't eat the right food, there is a problem. If we eat right food, then there is also a problem. So side effects are there for everything. Nothing is escaped from the side effects.
I agree.
Yeah. And now that your third question is that there may be mutations. So here I would like to comment upon the vaccines. They are developed. 30 vaccines we are talking about. From out of these 30 vaccines, some are based on inactivated virus. The whole virus that is inactivated is injected, and we are getting antibodies against that virus. Some vaccines, they are based on a part of the protein. This COVID virus has two types of the protein. One protein is the spike protein, which is at the corona part. These are spikes that is outside the cell. Another is the protein inside the nucleus. That is mRNA, RNA. That is a RNA based, because single-celled RNA. So that is the RNA and the protein inside the nucleus, right?
Yes.
So what happens in mutation? The mutation occurs only in the RNA, right? Then from the RNA, DNA is formed, and from the DNA, there's a replication of DNA, and then the virus, 1 virus, 2 virus, 3 virus, then there is an increased number of the virus inside. So this is replication of the virus inside the body. So if we have a vaccine against the mRNA, if the vaccine is based on the RNA,
yes,
we've taken the part of the RNA of the virus and we are injecting that RNA, then the antibodies are being developed against that RNA, so they are very specific for the RNA. So if mutations occurs, then there would be altered sequence of that RNA. So one vaccine which was there for RNA X will not be effective against the RNA Y, which has already mutated. So that type of vaccine will not be good for if there is any mutation occur in the COVID. But some vaccines, they are based on spike protein. So there is a part of the spike protein is being injected, and we are getting antibodies against that. There is no mutation cannot happen in spike protein. So that vaccine would be effective even if the virus is mutated. So all those vaccines which are based on the spike protein, they would be effective against all non-mutated or mutated virus, but the vaccine based on the RNA would not be effective against the mutated RNA virus.
That's so interesting, Dr. Sagu, because I had it exactly backwards in my mind, that the spike proteins could mutate, and so that was why viruses or variations of it could be not effective in one vaccine and effective in another. And I thought that the solution was an RNA vaccine.
Yeah.
And what you just described is exactly the opposite of what I was thinking. The RNA, I thought was, one solution if it attacked the RNA, and these other solutions of trying to attack the protein spikes were doomed to being ineffective. But what you just said is that proteins cannot mutate.
Yeah. Protein cannot mutate, only RNA can mutate. RNA-based vaccine may be more effective because they are specific for the RNA, but
Right.
that would not be effective against a mutated virus.
Right.
Spike protein, because it is a non-specific, it may be less effective against the virus, but it would be more effective against a mutated virus.
Well, this is why we do IBM TV, because my consciousness has just been raised, because I had it clearly in my mind the exact opposite of what you're just telling me.
Yeah.
So I'm an N of one, not that much, but I hope other people are listening and learning from you as I am.
Definitely. People around the world are watching IBM TV, and everyone is learning. I think Dr. Ramesh wants to say something before Dr. Ramesh.
No, I just want to take leave now, with your permission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your help with
Thank
my.
you, Dr. Sagu sir, because it was very informative, your discussion.
Yeah.
A lot of enlightenment about vaccines.
Yeah, you are most welcome, Dr. Ramesh. I heard you, and it was very good tips which you have given for the immunity booster. I think that would be personally that would benefit me.
Yeah. Thank
Dr.
you.
Ramesh, before you go, how effective is this Chyawanprash for our viewers?
No, Chyawanprash is a general medicine,
It's
of
too
course,
hard for me
people
to
who
write
have
down all that.
diabetes,
CHY.
it may not suit because it contains jaggery. Good.
Yeah.
Good SC. So people who don't have any other complications, it is a very good medicine.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to send it to Sasha and to Jim and to all my family in outside India.
People who have good digestion, good non-diabetic. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. That's a good warning.
Ankit, yeah, I will take your leave now. Ankit, Jim, then Sasha, Dr. Ramesh, and hope to see you tomorrow in our show, that is a talk show with Dr. Sagu. So I would like to, make a request to all the audience. Please join me tomorrow, IBM TV, 8:30. It's the Indian Standard Time, not the international.
Yes.
Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you for joining, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that was a lovely conversation with Dr. Sagu and Dr. Ramesh
yeah.
discussing about vaccines and immunity and all those stuff. And that is what Jim requires. I mean, because we still have to have a lot of notes and we are still learning about the COVID thing. We thought that we know a lot of things, but still there's a lot of research and tests going on. And then doctor also is getting a lot of, news and things going on. Because when I talk to a doctor, nowadays everyone is busy with the conferences because now they can't go physical conferences. So they have a lot of online conferences. And then after their day job, which is like a long job now because of COVID, they have to go to the conferences because they have to understand what's happening around the world, what are the cases and what are the feedbacks and all the stuff. And then they come on IBM TV and discuss about all those things. And that was
they have to be Iron Men to do that. That's just amazing. How do they do it physically? Their stamina is so impressive.
See, that's why they're doctors. You know that. I mean, they have that power to empower everyone and then make sure that they have enough information so that they can feed to the patients. In fact, when I spoke to a lot of doctors, they said that a lot of their friends, in fact, 70% of their friends are suffering from COVID or they have some mild symptoms, but still they're working because there is no other way to come back. In fact, apart from that, on our Independence Day, our Prime Minister have awarded a lot of COVID warriors because they were the front warriors during the COVID and then during the pandemic. They are the people who are outside home. The rest we are staying at home and working from home. So a lot of amazing stuff going around apart from what we have during the pandemic.
The most effective things that I have seen on U.S. television have been the frontline workers telling about their day, their average day. It just is so. It makes me so sad that they just day after day after day have to do these long days where they see people die. And then they have to go and treat the next patient that may or may not make it. And it's just, I can't even put myself in their shoes. So I can't say enough about them and how proud I am of them doing that. And that's why I'm furious when we don't give them protective equipment. I'm furious when we don't give them some sort of relief. It's just, why aren't we taking care of our frontline workers who are giving so much of their lives for so many? And they're almost an afterthought in our government.
I completely agree. We have to do a lot of things for our frontline workers, and also we have to learn what the mistakes we have done during the pandemic so that we don't repeat those same mistakes in future as well. And also, I believe
Yeah.
that the health budget should be something which is very important now. So we have to have a good health budget, which includes doctors, which includes frontline workers, which includes all the equipment and all those necessary research which we do. And we are not sharing, Jim. I think we are not sharing the medical facilities around the world. I think a lot of countries don't have ventilators. Some have less PPE kit and all those stuff. So once we have a broader dashboard that what stock we have and what stock Nigeria wants or what stock India wants or what US wants, if we have a common stock management thing going around, I think it would be easy for us to manage things around, because it's all about sharing and caring, and that's what we do. And you won't believe that when a doctor, treats a patient, they never ask about their caste, their country, their religion. No, it's all about treatment basically. So we have to understand why we have to discuss about all those stuff. And it's time for. I would like to know what's happening in Nigeria, because we don't have any news from Nigeria about COVID.
Yeah,
So,
Michael,
what do you
please
think?
tell us.
Well, COVID is still on, but the cases are just gradually increasing, and the death rates are also still low. We're still believing God for. Actually, it's not actually believing God, but we're just still hoping for a vaccine. And some Nigerians are not actually comfortable with the trials of vaccine to any Nigerian here, actually. So for now, we're just looking at it, and some still think it's a game. No politics being played in. It started with politics being played in Nigeria. Now it's going to the world, but most of us still believe that it really does exist. I was opportune to visit a hospital that actually has a COVID center in it. Yes, in Lagos here in Ikoyi. Um, my uncle actually got infection of the lungs, so he was admitted. When he was first rushed to the gynecologist hospital, first of all, he was being rejected, thinking he had COVID, because he had almost symptoms of COVID. He couldn't breathe well. His breathing was not that good, and he was having hard time breathing. Let me put that word, use that word, and he had to be on oxygen. So before he was admitted at our hospital, they had to do a COVID test like 3 times to be sure that he didn't have COVID, and he turned negative. So when I came the next day to visit him at the hospital, I saw the next building across was a COVID center, and everyone were just on masks. Uh, they were running temperatures, always using sanitizers. We're washing our hands regularly, and it was done on me that this is really, it's real, it's real. And I'll say glory be to God. He's okay. He's at home. When I got there, we had to just be careful about it. But I heard something about taking hydrochloroquine. It helps. We heard it helps to reduce the rate of infection of someone. So I think I'll use that to ask Dr. Tula. Good to have you on the show. Do you really think hydrochloroquine has reduced the infection rate of COVID?
So first of all, thank you for having me on the show again, Ankit. It's been and good evening to Ankit, Jim, Sasha, and our gentleman friend from Africa. So you asked a very pertinent question in the sense that, see, when we started off in the war against the COVID, so initially, see, there was a lot of, hearsay evidence pointing to the use of chloroquine as a prophylactic agent against corona. So, I mean, though there were indirect studies which showed role of chloroquine toward different kind of viruses. So it was just on anecdotal as well as some amount of experimental data available with as respect to other viruses, and even some based on other genomes of the coronaviruses. So the doctors went into this hyperdrive of using chloroquine as an adjunct prophylactic agent to prevent corona. But over a period of time, when the situation evolved, so the trials and a period of time showed that it did this chloroquine did not have any kind of uh, I mean uh, real substance to back it up as a prophylactic agent. So as time passed, many countries got into this chloroquine thing for prophylaxis, but then cases were reported on people even undergoing prophylaxis with chloroquine. So over a period of time, I mean, it has been reduced to more just on anecdotal reports only. So nowadays, not many people are using it as an prophylaxis. And a reason of this prophylaxis also was that in certain countries, in the initial period where they were hit, like France and Spain and Italy, so there also this anecdotal reports emerged that they were using this as a prophylactic. And to add fuel to fire, I mean the great president of United States, as Jim calls it, so he also, I mean, inadvertently promoted this. So if you
Yes.
have a leader of the world's
Yes.
biggest democracy advocating something, I mean, unfortunately, it does cut a lot of ice among a lot of people.
Right now, he's also promoting something in. He's in Virginia today, Jim. Donald Trump. He's doing the speech today. Do you know about that? You are unmuted. Unmute yourself, Jim. We
The
can't hear
mic
you.
is muted.
Terribly sorry. I was muting it for some noise in my background. Yeah, I'm not following the Donald Trump tour, but there is the Republican National Convention that starts on Monday, and I'm very interested in see what the tone and tenor of that is.
Wonderful. And I think everyone is supporting either blue or red, so I'm not sure which side is Dr. Tola. But let's talk about vaccines.
So,
Well, Dr.
so
Tula,
I have
before
a
you
very
go on,
neutral. I have a very neutral take with politicians because I really believe I've seen them quite some. I am not that old and I'm not that young also. But over a period of time, what I've seen with politicians, unfortunately, is that they come in all different colors, shapes, sizes, but ultimately they have failed to impress me over a period of years. And not,
So true. I just caught a little bit yesterday. Politicians are just
I think
people
before
like the
we
rest of us.
so as I remember, one of our professors used to tell at a very interesting joke. So he used to tell that, see, you should not look at watches too much because they come in all different shapes and sizes, but ultimately they tell the time. So,
Yes.
so that
And
is
don't
more
judge-
important rather than the shapes and sizes of the watches.
and don't judge a book by its cover.
Yes.
Yes.
But I guess the bottom
That's well
line,
said.
Mark just came in, but the bottom line is this well touted solution or preventative cure for COVID is not to be relied on.
So it gives you a sense of false, I would say security, right? That is
Yeah.
not founded on any basic tenet of science. So what happens is you get into this false sense of security that nothing is going to happen around me, and there is where you may err. So it is very important, as I told you again and again, we need to be very, very, cognizant of the fact that it is not only we who are at stake, it is people around us also who are going to, here, I would say, bear the brunt of our actions. So it is very important that we behave responsibly.
You're right. Absolutely.
Yep, definitely.
It's a duty. It's not just a responsibility, it's a duty.
Yep.
So, Dr. Tola, there's a meme going on around the internet right now that the vaccine which we have about COVID, is that a red color vaccine or a blue color vaccine?
So, Ankit, I am not bothered about the color of the vaccine till it works and it is safe. So, these are the only two
Sure.
concerns which I have. So, one is that it should be a safe vaccine, and number two, it has to give some kind of immunity. I mean, for whatever time, that is a question mark that we will, over a period of time, see. I mean, because see, we need to be understanding and cognizant of one fact that even if a vaccine comes, and let's presume it, I mean, in the initial period, it will take some time for us to know that how much is the immunity coming on the ground, right? Because
True.
please understand, experimental, I mean, vaccination is at a very different level. When you do it on ground, the vaccine is transported to various locations. There is going to be a little bit here and there also during, I mean, when you are giving the vaccine also, because the temperatures at different places are going to be, I mean, different. So one, we need to understand all of those nitty-gritties. Then the inoculation, the kind of response to different ethnicities, all is going to be different. So what I would request to people is that even if when we are under the process of undergoing vaccination, we should not put our guard down.
Yes.
And we
Yeah,
should consider that we should at least take it for 3 months, that 3 months henceforth we have to continue with the same way.
Yes.
It's only
Yep.
then we will have an idea what is going on. And what I read and hear from all the vaccine, I mean, the companies who are in the leading race for vaccination is that none of the companies I mean, has come out and said that our vaccine is going to give you a lifetime immunity.
Yes.
So the range between these immunities are ranging between 3 months to 6 months. So that means that you will keep on getting the vaccination again and again till this disease becomes, I mean, limited to a certain amount.
In fact, Dr. Dula, I have asked Dr. Sagguam, because he was there on the show a little while earlier, that I took a vaccine in India, and then I'm planning to go to Africa maybe like next after 3 months. Do I have to go again a vaccination which is, related to the African weather and environment, or I can still use the vaccine which I already have? Because you know that mutations are different. We have different symptoms in different countries, and we are not sure what's happening around. So, what is the best way forward?
So that is going to be a challenge, because see, what we need to understand is that, see, I mean, it's just a trial and error which is happening at the moment. Now, suppose we have an A vaccine and we believe that it gives us protection. First is that whether it will give us protection against all strains, right? So it is, let us presume a very good scenario. I mean, it's a, I would say, a scenario where we get a vaccine and it provides against, I mean, more or less provides us immunity against all strains of coronavirus. In that scenario also, we need to understand that up to what level are our antibodies developed in our body which are going to give us sufficient immunity against virulent strains of the same virus. Or I would say, let us put it the other way, that suppose I have to go into a certain area where there is high viral shedding in that area. That means the people are shedding the virus in copious amount, right? So whether this vaccine is going to give, I mean, up to what time is this vaccine going to give me 100% immunity against that virus? Whether it is going to be 2 months, 3 months, or well, I'll have to keep on repeating it monthly or 2 monthly. And then there is going to be a period before your immunity will develop up to that level. So it may be anywhere around, at the moment, in the Oxford one, they're telling a month. That is the vaccine which we are keenly following in India also. So it's telling that it will take around 28 days, 24 to 28 days for us to develop that amount of immunity where when we are exposed to the coronavirus, we will not catch the virus.
Hey, Dr. Dula, I've got one teasy remark I got to give you, and then I've got a somewhat serious question to ask as well. The teaser remark I got to ask you is, you said we need to stop judging books by their cover and everything, but you are a plastic surgeon in addition, and I know some of it is done for non-cosmetic purposes, but there is also the cosmetic aspect of plastic surgery, and some women want to have their cover judged so they get their plastic surgery. So if we stop judging the book by the cover, you might be out of half of your business. So that was my teasing remark. Now, my serious question is, I definitely have seen, around the internet and things of that nature, there's some folks that are not taking this as seriously as I think they should. COVID is definitely very serious, but you're having people that are like saying, I've had it. It wasn't worse than a common flu. It's just the same as a flu. not impacting the society as much as the media is letting you think it is. And they're kind of like the negative Nellies and the kind of folks like that. So what kind of message would you give to them to let them know that this is a very serious pandemic and that they need to take it seriously? Because I do see around the internet, and it's not just here in the United States, I'm seeing people even around other parts of the globe that are like, saying it's not all that serious. And, I had it was no worse than the flu that I had a year ago or 2 years ago or something like that. So as a medical professional, what kind of advice can you give these folks so they will take it seriously? Because I, for one, am taking it very seriously, but I just want to hear your response to those that are not taking it seriously.
So, Mark, the first thing which is very important and imperative is to first understand the virus, right? Because you need to understand the nature of the beast before you decide to tame it, right? So please understand this is a very, very smart virus. And we have to respect the virus, because see, if you respect your enemy, then only are you able to devise a strategy to fight it. So one, there are three things with this virus. One, that it is here to stay, number one. Number two, it is a reality, it is not a myth. Number three, it is giving different symptoms in different people, right? And it has shown that it has a will to survive on its own, right? So these are 4 or 5 parameters we need to get into. And the fifth and the most important thing is that it has realized that if it becomes, too aggressive with people, so ultimately what happens is that people start dying with the virus and they are not able to transmit it from one person to another. The virus itself is going to be self-limited and it's going to die off. So I believe that we need to understand that this virus is a very smart virus. We need to fight it tooth and nail, but have a strategy around it, right? And the most important and about the people who think that it's a medical hoax or something, I would like them to only understand one thing, that people who have had the virus and they have come out unscathed is because of two reasons. One, the viral load was not that much, and number two, their immunity was up to a certain level, but it was not also very great, because if it would have been excellent, then they would have had a cytokine storm and they would have ended up in the ICU. So it is very important, we need to understand that, and there is an evolution phase. So the doctors, no doctor on the earth can tell you at the moment how this virus is going to behave in the coming days. It is an evolving thing. So you need to understand that when things are evolving, you will never have a straight away 2 + 2 4 answer in this. And this is where I think people are now getting confused, because they believe that doctors on one hand say something on the one day, then on the second day they are saying something else. And this is a statement which has occurred from happening with the WHO also. So one day they are saying one statement, the other day they change the statement. But we need to understand that it's an evolving situation. So in an evolving situation, you have to keep on changing the goals and the ways to deal with the situation. So my hand-folded request to all people is that please listen to your doctors. See, you may not want to listen, you may not want to accept that this is happening, but please remember, this is for your own safety. It is for your own safety of your near and dear ones. Even if you don't love yourself, I am sure you love your parents and you love your children and you love your grandparents also. So my only hand-folded request to all of them is that please, for their sake, not for your own sake, but for their sake, we take precautions. And they are very simple precautions. Yeah, so there are very simple precautions. One is to wear mask. Even if you don't want to, my request is please wear it. You can have a designer mask. You can do paintings on the mask. There are many ways of expressing yourself, right? Even if you want to show dissent, please show dissent using a mask. You may write slogans on it, do whatever you want to with the mask, but wear a good quality mask, number one. Number two, stay away from people, generally from crowded places. And number three is keep on washing your hands. I am not a great pro sanitizer person. I believe that they have their own problems. I believe at least you can wash your hands and try to not touch too many things at one go.
Yeah, such great advice. Amazing advice.
If possible, stay home. If possible, stay home. I'm not saying that all will be able to stay home, but at least if it is not required to go out, please stay home.
Such amazing advice you gave. I've got to tease, and this is a non-medical question, but I've got to tease Jim and Alexander. I know Alexander's been over there studying the trade market and everything like that, so I know he's been studying how the stocks are doing. But they are chess masters, and one of the things that I saw earlier, I don't know if y'all commented on this, was that Mr. Trump tried to say that he is going to make a parallel between chess masters in his speech. So I didn't know if you saw that, if it gave you the headache that you often get sometimes when you heard that, Jim. But I wanted to hear your response to him trying to make a comparison to be a chess master. Because even Mike's laughing at that thought. Everybody's like thinking that he cannot make that kind of comparison. But I think I'll make it. I'll be glad. I think you'll be glad to know that I think that this proves that the crazy person that lives in DC is watching IBM.TV because he made the parallel to Chessmaster. So I think that he's been watching us, and therefore that's why he knows what a Chessmaster is. So that's my own personal feeling.
I defer to
And you know, before Tasha starts, you know that for that crazy person, we already have our person lined up to go to White House. We have our White House correspondent,
Yes.
Bill President, with us, so he'll take care of that. And let's go to Tasha to discuss more about Sasha Spent's choice on the speech yesterday. Sasha, over to you.
I think that Trump probably in the 80s, I don't think that he even knew what is chess and that exists. However, he learned about it very quickly during his first trip to Russia in 1987. So he was introduced to chess there. And when Putin became a president of Russia, Putin trained him a lot in all the world politics matters, in chess matters, and many other subjects. And so I would imagine that by now, Donald is quite skillful at chess and many other things, but his master is not happy with his progress. It's very slow. He's not getting there, and I think he's prepared to fire him.
Sounds good. What do you think, Jim? You're the other chess master here and everything. I want to hear your thoughts.
Oh no, I'm not touching that one. So I've learned restraint.
You've learned restraint. Restraint is a wonderful thing. So I'm gonna come back to Dr. Tula. So you didn't answer my question about I was teasing you about the fact that so much of plastic surgery is cosmetic plastic surgery. So if we stop judging the book by its cover, will you lose a lot of your business, or will you still be able to maintain?
So Mark, honestly speaking, see, I'll be very candid with you. Whenever anyone walks to us for a cosmetic procedure, at least I don't judge that person. I don't judge them at all, because please understand, there are a lot of fine-tuning intricacies within people are complex. We're not very simple. We're complex. We have our own contradictions. We want something. We may have 10 things. We may want an 11th thing. So it is very difficult to basically make a judgment about someone, but our own intent is to make them happy, and I think that is the end of the story. I mean, it's not about, it's the entire process also. We try to make the process also as fulfilling as possible, because ultimately everyone wants to enjoy the journey also. It's not only the destination, they want to enjoy the journey also, and they want there are two things which I have realized over a period of time into practice is that one, we have to basically start delaying the inevitable also. So that means that what we need to do is we need to ensure that if a person is spending X amount of money to get to a place, we need to make the person understand that there are some procedures which we should be doing to at least getting them to anti-age also, right? So it is not only just glamorizing the entire thing, and we don't work on the basics. We need to work on the basics and give them a good journey, so that over a period of time, when they start going into the gray years, they do not fall all of sudden.
All right, Dr. Tula.
Because I've actually got friends of mine that have.
Mark, bro, you got a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Tula, before I take my leave, I wanted you to help me with this. In Nigeria, actually, we are having about 50,964 total confirmed cases, and we have about 37,569 cases that have been discharged. Now, we have about 992 dead cases. Now, if you look at the gaps, I think we have about 10,000, 15,000. No, let's say 12,000 infected. And day by day, it keeps increasing. Like yesterday, I'm trying to get the figures right. Yesterday, we had about 476 new cases. In Lagos, is about 235 for yesterday. Now, it was um, it was predicted that Africa will have a high rise of COVID cases, and now in Nigeria, it's not as if it's coming up gradually. It's a gradual thing compared to the U.S., India, and also Brazil. And some of us still believe that probably it's because of the weather, because Africa is actually really hot. Nigeria is really hot, to be honest. And we feel that probably that is why the cases are is actually not spreading as it's speculated to be. What's your take on the low rise in Nigeria?
So, bro, the thing was that when this virus came in the initial period, this theory which was propagated that in certain weather conditions this virus will not survive, right, or it will not thrive, right. So please understand what is the modus operandi of this virus. So this virus is basically from man to man transmission, right? So that means it
All
is
right.
spreading by respiratory droplets and all. So what happens is, see, if it is a fomite borne infection, fomite means that you're breathing into let us presume the air, and or you cough and sneeze. The cough and sneeze particles, they settle down on a surface, right? And if the surface is exposed to, I mean, extreme temperatures, of course the virus, if it is going to survive generally for around 72 hours, it may not survive for 72 hours, and it may come down to that survival rate may fall to around 24 hours to 36 hours. That means half the amount of time where it is supposed to thrive in a normal environment. But please understand that 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 transmission at the moment I don't think is happening much. So the maximum transmission which is happening is man to man, right? So the weather will only come into picture when you have a virus which is going to transmit through majoritarily through fomite, right? So I do agree that there may be this fomite borne transmission may go down, but man to man it is not helping us at all. There are two three reasons which why I come with this theory, because see, initially it was said in India also this was this theory that the areas which are hotter you will not have this virus. So we down south in India also we have states which are very hot. Like you have Tamil Nadu, which is extremely hot. You have Kerala, which is hot, right? And you even in Southeast Asia, you have places like Malaysia and all which have tropical climate, so they're not very cool, right? But
Yeah.
still we saw virus cases there, and this also has happened in the GCC or Middle East countries. Now, Middle East countries, you can very well know that they are also very hot. So it's not that they have pleasant temperatures. Cities like Dubai and Ras Al Khaimah and all, they are extremely hot, and especially during this uh, March, April, May, June month, they're extremely hot. You can't. The temperature generally reaches up to 50 degrees centigrade. So the cases were reported from there also. So ultimately, what is happening is that I do agree with you that there can be a chance that in hot climate, the virus, if it is fomite borne, then the transmission should be less. But since primarily this virus is being shed in our secretions and it is going from secretions by way of secretions from one individual to another. So, I mean, the only way to break the chain of the virus is to contain the virus. Till the
All right.
virus is there in our body, it is not possible that we will not be able to hold it from spreading. And the second reason why Africa is still not, I mean, I would say not absolutely embroiled or, I mean, into the thick of action is one, that travel to
Yeah.
Africa is also limited. So, I mean, I was very surprised even when the virus reached us. I presume that that must have reached from people who were, I mean, traveling from China or from other countries where the virus has already been there. But honestly speaking, there might be certain countries in Africa where travel would have not been there, and so if the travel is not there and there is no human source of infecting the virus, chances are that the virus will be limited in that area. The third thing is which is very important is the amount of testing, because
Yeah.
please remember, if you are not testing, then you may have a good amount of asymptomatic carriers running around, and how will you know that they are positive or negative?
Mm. Mm.
Well,
And
Sure.
last part, which is a very controversial thing, which I would like to state very clearly, in certain countries, right, the reporting of death is also very different, right?
Yes.
So, for example, in India, also around 3 days, 4 days back, we had a newspaper headline in one of our leading dailies where they pointed out this glaring pitfall. That, and I was beforehand also. I had a word with, I think it was. If I'm not wrong, Kimberly or Nick, where they had told me that there were only 330 deaths in Malaysia or something. So I told them this only, that see, apparently the way of catching the data is also very different in different countries. So, like for example, in India, we declare death by the acute event, right? So whether it is due to cardiorespiratory failure, whether it is respiratory failure, so that is taken as the cause of death. Now, secondarily cause, which is primarily the cause, that is sometimes not reported.
Mm. Mm.
well. I know you're going to leave,
My
Mike,
wife's
but I
pulling
was
my
just
leg.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mike. Before you leave, I just had one
Yeah.
quick question for you and everything, because your show today was about cerebral palsy and things of that nature. So I just wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about what you learned doing that show. And I'm gonna go back and watch it myself, but I was just wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about what you learned about cerebral palsy, because I did notice that that was what your show was about, and of course that's a medical issue. So I was just curious as to what you learned.
Well, actually, my show is a life coach show, not actually a health show, but it happened that I wanted to celebrate Win. So, and she has cerebral palsy, and I decided to use that opportunity to probably educate. That's not probably, but just educate the audience more about cerebral palsy, because it's true how I got to understand more about that disability. So, actually, I learned a lot. First of all, I learned how to communicate with people that have disabilities. Like, they hate it when you try to show them pity. They don't like it at all. And being too friendly, you need to be careful the terms you use talking to them, and just look at them as adults. Look at them as able people, and relate with them that same way. And again, I got to understand it's a disability, and they can also have relationships. Um, they are human beings. There's nothing different. They can be anything they want to be. It's just their mindset. Like when they refuse to beg. Most of them are known to be like beggars, being under people's pity and stuff like that. But she refused and went ahead to make herself who she is today. So cerebral palsy is another thing I got to understand, that lack of oxygen, blood, and nutrients could cause it during pregnancy, that's before birth and after birth. So that's what I can say about cerebral palsy for now.
Very
Yeah,
good. Very
yeah,
good,
that's a
Paul.
lot to learn, and that's a lot to learn, and that's really good. And I do find that most disabled folks just want to be accepted for their disability. They don't want you to take pity on them. They don't want you to have that kind of like feeling that they are less than or anything of that nature. I mean, I was really impressed, and I don't know what Jim thought of this as well, but I was really impressed with the speech that Tammy Duckworth gave. And Tammy Duckworth is very much a supporter of the disabled, as she is a veteran who was wounded in war, and definitely gave a great speech and everything of that nature. I also thought, some people might have taken offense at her calling the certain person the coward in chief. I thought it actually fit. So, like I said, I thought that was a great way of her putting out and calling him out and everything. But definitely, she's got the right to do that, and she is a military veteran and has actually lost a lot in the sense of losing part of her body limbs and everything by that being involved in that war and everything. So definitely, I think that you're so right about that, and definitely that even comes back to Dr. Tula, because we've seen the amazing work that folks can do in terms of putting folks in back together in some form or another. Because like I said, I think that she's got a prosthetic leg from that war injury. I've actually got friends that are breast cancer survivors, and they've had reconstructive work done on them. So a lot of times that reconstructive work is very important in terms of letting folks be mobile and things of that nature. So definitely it was just great seeing her be so passionate for the disabled. So I thought that she did a really good job of getting that message out there. But I know that Jim watched a lot of the convention as well. So before he makes leave of us, I'd like to hear what Jim's thoughts were of Tammy Duckworth's speech.
Oh, I just agree with you, Mark. It's very moving, and it reminds us that some of the plastic surgery is not cosmetic at all. Some of it is reconstructive, and it's very important to bring that out. And also, just the care and compassion that we need to show to all human beings, whatever they look like. It just doesn't matter. So, we just got a lot. I got so much out of that convention. It was so upbeat, so filled with hope, and so filled with the idea of unifying all people, no matter what they look like, no matter where they're from, no matter how tall they are, how small they are. It just doesn't matter. And I really thought that her speech was spot on. Thanks, Mark.
No problem. I thought it was spot on as well. I was really impressed with, as I said on this show before, primarily African American, but I do have some Native American history. So I thought that Deb Halon's speech as well, that celebrated the history of Native indigenous people, as well as talked about the climate, was also one of those that was really spot on as well. So there were a number of them that were really spot on and things of that nature.
During the medical fair day, I thought, if Trump
I was here to get back to medical topics. So I'm here to come back to the conversation with Dr. Tula. Sorry to got sidetracked because I do that sometimes. But I was going to ask you, that's why I brought up the reconstructive surgery. So could you talk about the importance of reconstructive surgery and things of that nature? Because like I said, I know that there have been burn victims. There have been others that it's oftentimes what they need. So could Dr. Tula, could you talk about how important that is and some of the developments in that area and everything? And then, because I like to ask irreverent questions as well, and that's just part of my nature. So I do want to know that about the reconstructive surgery, but I also want to know about that train that's in the background in among your pictures, Dr. Tula, as well, because there's like this little caboose that's been kind of like catching my eye. So I want to know about that train as well. But the more serious question is about the importance of reconstructive surgery and if there are any new developments. But if you can get to the train, I'd like to know about that as well.
So the good part, see, we need to understand that, see, generally what happens is that what we see around with us is that general impression within the community is that plastic surgery is all about aesthetic surgery or cosmetic surgery as commonly called, right? So we need to understand cosmetic surgery is only just one part of the entire spectrum of work which we do. So the most common parameters is that we divide the plastic surgery into reconstructive and aesthetic surgery. Now, reconstructive surgery can be any reconstructive. It can be reconstructions of hands, limbs, it can be of genitalia, it can be burns. So there is a lot of things which is and even craniofacial surgery is also a part of plastic surgery only, including the maxillofacial surgery. So facial fractures, people with different kind of facial expressions due to certain birth genetic defects and all, they also are taken care by this specialty. And you will be very surprised that in burns now, see, there has been a lot of advances in burns, but still we are still far away from having a kind of magic bullet, or I would say a silver bullet for burns, because at the moment we have artificial skin sources by which we can have artificial skin and all that, skin the way it should be. So we are in a lot of research going around. We were talking about tissue regeneration. We have stem cell research going around. So I think in around 10 to 15 years henceforth, with the kind of work that people are putting in, we will be able to get something out of this, which will be, I mean, very, very path breaking. But at the moment, what the problem with, especially with burns, is that we are able to take care of burns. So we are able to take care of burns. So we have been able to improve in the mortality part of the burn, but unfortunately, burns are very, very crippling. So you have a lot of scars and all that, and unfortunately, at the moment, the amount of surgeries which are required for that, ultimately at the end of the that also, so you are basically able to rehabilitate the patient, but cosmetically you are not able to improve too much. So that is the biggest challenge at the moment with burn. So the expectation of the patient is that I will become a brand new self of themselves, but unfortunately that does not happen. And aesthetically, you are not able to do too much. You may be able to do a 50-60% amount of work on them on aesthetics, but it's never 100%. And that is the big challenge with burn, because see, it's a kind of, it's a you can call it that it has a emotional, it has a social impact also, because people who are burned, generally they are not looked good upon by people around them. So they are either sympathetic towards them, or they abhor them and try to get away from them. Still, there is a lot of education which needs, and a lot of I would say empathy which has to come from people towards burn victims, and we are still far away from that. We need to really work on that with this part.
Cool. Yes, definitely some great thoughts there and everything. You didn't think that I was going to let you escape, and Ankit's trying to figure out how I'm going to tie the train back into medicine, but I'm going to pull it off and do it really good. So I'm really curious about that train between the two pictures, and then I'm going to pull that back to medicine and plastic surgery, and Ankit's going to be really impressed when I do this. So,
So
like I said, tell me about the train first, and then I'm going to pull it back to plastic surgery.
so that so that's not a train. It's basically, you're talking about that metallic round object, if I'm not wrong. Oh, okay, you're talking about the train.
The
So
train.
this is my, yeah, I got it. This is my child's room. So that train is basically a light. There is a bulb inside that train.
Ah,
Okay.
So
Well,
it's an
see, this is
LED
how I'm going to
LED
tie
bulb.
it back. So the train is actually a light. That's good. And I thought I saw a light. Now watch this really quickly, Aiken, how I pull this back to medicine. So I want you to watch. My dad actually found a turtle one time. The turtle was injured, and the turtle was totally injured and was incapacitated. My dad is very much of a scientist, very much involved in arts right now, but he wanted to rescue the turtle. So what he did was he got some wheels, like from a toy and everything. He put that on the turtle and kept the turtle alive for a number of weeks because that train, that little bit of the wheels is what he used to help the turtle get around. So he actually did plastic surgery on the turtle and got the turtle to stay alive for a little bit longer because it was scooting around the yard or around the house using those wheels as my dad practiced his own version of plastic surgery. Weren't you really impressed, Aiken, by the way I turned that right back around onto science?
That's
So Mark,
wonderful.
it is
So
very, it's a great fact that we, whatever advances in medication has happened, that is all because of nature. So you can look at the nature around us. You think, who's the best surgeon? Can you guess who's the best surgeon in nature?
No, who's the best surgeon?
best surgeon,
Yeah. So the
animals are
best
the best.
surgeon is the weaver bird. It squeals,
Beaver body. Yeah.
Okay.
right?
Yes.
So I don't think anyone stitches better than that
Yeah.
gentleman
Yeah. Certainly.
or lady, whatever you want. So we need to understand that we've learned a lot of tricks stripped from all these. So you will be very surprised that see, if you look at the 1800s and 1700s, anesthesia was not great. So over a period of time, as anesthesia has advanced, the surgery has also advanced. So basically, as anesthesia develops, the amount of surgery is going to develop. So it is very important that surgery itself should not be, I mean, they should not be the cheerleaders. It is basically the anesthesiologists who are the main people behind the kind of work which we can do. Because if they keep the patient safe during the amount of surgery, the number of hours of the surgery get extended, the more we can operate.
No, but I've got
Just
mad
to say,
respect for anesthesiologists. My uncle's sister was trained at I believe it was John Hopkins or one of the schools in DC as an anesthesiologist. I believe she worked for Walter Reed, if I remember correctly. But definitely, I have mad respect for that field and everything. I'm not gonna lie about it and everything because that is the knockout person at everything. So I, like many folks, are always concerned that, yes, they will knock you out. Yes, they know what they're doing, but you're also afraid, will they actually be able to get you out of the knockout phase? I think that that's something that everybody goes into when they deal with the anesthesiologist, even though, their mind tells them that they all know what they're doing and that there is a good chance that you will come out on the other side. I do think that that is a fear of most people, just because most of us don't like to be knocked out. We don't like to be knocked out by boxing blows, and we don't like to be knocked out by the doctor, but that is part of what the anesthesiologist does. But I do have mad respect for that field because, like I said, Pinky, that's the name that we call her by. That's not her birth name, but that's my uncle's sister, and that's what she was trained as.
that Dr. Tula mentioned about anesthesiastic, basically because I mean those people are required for before every surgery, and I think they also do the pre-diagnosis and then submit the report to the surgeon. That's what happening in India. But also, Dr. Tula, I mean, whenever we do some kind of a typical surgery, maybe a head surgery, we also need a dentist, and then there is always a reconstructive surgeon always there as a team.
Yeah,
But a lot of people don't know about that.
so the reason is that we want that ultimately, see, these surgical complex surgery operations are always a surgical team, right? For example, I had the privilege of being involved in the separation of a Siamese twins. Siamese twins means people who are joined from their chest area and the buttock area by birth, right? So I had that privilege of being in part of the team. So we were at least around 14 specialties involved in that entire surgery, and that surgery lasted for 96 hours at one stretch. So we need to understand that the more complex the surgery is, the more the amount of people from different faculties which are going to be involved, and that is how it works. So ultimately, it is all a teamwork. We need to understand that if the team is great, I mean, the chances of success are also going to be great. So you need to, it's just that the gomhai between the people, the kind of working ethic between the people, and the camaraderie should be great. So ultimately, it's a team job.
Dr.
So
Tula, was that
sometimes
the
what
longest
happens is
surgery
the
you had
surgeon
ever
takes the
done?
credit that everything happened because of him. But we need to understand that there are many people around him who have helped in the work.
Dr. Tula, I was asking you, is that the longest surgery you've ever done, or have you done anything that was like longer than that? Because I'm impressed with
I
that.
will
That's
tell
long enough.
that is, yeah, that is the longest, because before that we had done one surgery which had lasted 24 hours at a stretch, but I think this was the longest. I've never done something else. So generally in plastic surgery, when we are doing reconstructive surgeries, 12-13 hour surgery is norm for us. So a 12-hour 13-hour surgery is normal for us, and that means that you are continuously operating for that 12-13 hours. You're not taking breaks.
Oh, so
In reconstructive surgeries, that is a norm with us. I mean, when we talk about cancer reconstructions, or we're talking about different kind of bigger reconstructions, this is the amount of 8 hours to 12 hours is a norm, right? So that is perfectly normal with us when we're doing these kind of surgeries. But this kind of surgery where you're looking at doing something very challenging like a SAMI, co-joint twin separation and all, these surgeries can run into days.
So I understand the doctors are not taking a break. Is that no member of the team is taking a break? So
No,
none
no,
of the
no. So
doctors or the nurses, nobody's
in
taking a
that
break.
no. In that kind of a scenario, what you do is you start with one team, and then what happens is then in between you, but you don't leave the premises of the hospital because you don't know when you will be required. Because please understand, no one can have an idea that how much time is it going to take to, I mean, ultimately separate the kid. So what happens is that you have to remain within the perimeter of the hospital only. So you cannot leave the hospital.
Definitely.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah,
not
that's
that
Also,
you are
still,
operating the entire day down, but what happens
yeah,
is that what happens in these cases is the adrenaline rush is also too much because this is a very complex thing which you are doing. So no one wants to miss out on it. So generally
yeah.
what happens is people don't sleep, which is
okay,
very amusing because what happens is when they know that something is going, it's just like something exciting is going around and you tend to lose a lot of sleep in that scenario.
No, I
But
can believe
it's
that for
not that
sure.
you're not yeah, but it's
yeah.
not that you're not resting. You are resting, but the entire team takes around that much time to separate. And sometimes in literature, it has been noticed that sometimes it has taken even more than that.
Dr. Jolan, I know we're
Because
probably going to wrap up shortly and everything. Well, I think you just disappeared on me. But my quick question for you and everything is, we have a lot of medical shows here in the United States and around North America, and I'm sure there's a lot around the globe as well. But how accurate do you find those shows to be? I know a lot of them have that soap opera aspect, but how accurate do you find them to be? And is there any that you look at or that you've seen that you think capture the essence of what's going on and everything? Because I know we've had everything from Chicago Hope, which I think is a medical show, on down to The Doctors and a number of other shows. But I was just wondering what your perception is of the social media and the cultural perception of how doctors are perceived and how those shows give the perceptions of what doctors are about. So I was just wondering your take on Hollywood, Bollywood, all of the woods around the society and how they portray doctors.
so I would say that see, we need to understand there are two, three aspects when these kind of shows are made. So one is to give the glamour aspect to the job also, which I believe is I mean, see, there are shows they have to run, so you will have to do a little bit of tweaking around it. But over a period of time, I've seen it in some shows as the essence remains, I mean, same. And I mean, they are good to watch, I would say. For people, it's and I have also met certain people who told me in during their graduation time that they got inspired because of these shows to become a doctor, which I think is a very is a great positive takeaway from these shows. If we are inspiring more people to get into medicine because of shows, and because it's a very very steep climb and it's an extreme hard working profession where you have to basically sacrifice a lot. You essentially sacrifice your youth so that you don't enjoy your youth as much as other. Not to say that there are other professions also which are equally draining and equally taxing, but this is something. So I mean, this is the very positive thing because it ultimately gives. So then there are shows where there is a lot of negativity also involved, but then that is the total crux of the matter. So ultimately, you will win, you will lose some. So it's not bad in that sense. I'm a eternal optimist of these shows. I believe it is good to have these kind of shows because then it motivates also people to join the profession. Of course, it does not give you the entire true picture of the profession, but that's okay. That's okay. I mean, you have to take it that way.
And Dr. Dula, lastly, I mean, you know that about the Russian vaccine, and also Russian is interested to partner alive with the Indian medical fraternity with the vaccine. What's your take on the vaccine right now? I mean, do you think we can have a vaccine this year? Because now we are getting a lot of news about vaccine every day.
So I think the see, I also saw one of the news bite with the I think it was the Russian foreign minister
Yeah,
who
yeah,
was talking about that there were some countries in collaboration with Russia looking at the vaccine, and he did mention that India is also one partner to it. Now, I'm not
yeah.
very sure whether really that is happening or not. You may be having better insight into that, Ankit. But honestly speaking, the trial level is not up to the, I won't say up to
I
the
know
mark.
that.
What I
That's
would
why I'm
say
telling
is
you.
but the number of people what they're claiming to have got into the trial is a little less. So I would be little circumspect. I would really want that this vaccine should be tried in a bigger cohort of study and then given to people. But anyway, I mean this is, and I won't be judgmental on the vaccine to say first. And let's keep our fingers crossed, because ultimately we need to understand two things with the vaccine. One is efficacy, other is safety. So there cannot be a compromise on both. You cannot have a vaccine which is very efficacious, yet it is costing us a lot of morbidity with or side effects. Because if we have, I mean, severe side effects, then the whole purpose of the vaccine gets defeated.
I completely agree, sir. And we are getting a mixed response on IBM TV when people contact us around the world regarding the vaccine, because people are still not sure that whether they will be getting the vaccine as a first users. So they might wait for what's happening with the vaccine market, and then they will try to avoid it. And also, we have a wide variety of vaccine, so we don't know which one is good enough for your body, or because every vaccine have a different limitations and all this stuff. That's what Dr. Sagu was also mentioned. So let's see what happens during the course of time. But right now, it's more about prevention and taking the right precautions, and still try to be at home if you don't have any other important work outside, and try to use mask and follow the right precautions. Try to bring your immunity at a high level so that you have that capacity to fight with the virus, and stay blessed and stay connected. That's what we can share from IBM TV. And it's almost time to wrap up our show as well. We have a show coming up, Financial Friday, with Nick Palaveda, which has already started. So viewers will be joining that show. So before we wrap up, any final comments by Dr. Tula? And then we'll go to marketing.
So I think my only request to people is, please be safe. Please keep yourself safe. Please keep people around you safe. And the best way off is only three things to do: wear mask.
Yeah.
Number two is that maintain distance. And number three is wash your hands.
Sure. That's very important.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mark, you have to say something before we wrap up?
Just great advice that Dr. Tula gave, and I agree with him that that's what we need to do. I mean, this is a global pandemic, and this is definitely something that we have to work together as a global community in order to solve the problem and things of that nature. So I'm definitely following the science as well, trying to respect what the scientists are giving us as they develop the vaccine. So that's definitely what I'm seeing going on, and I'm encouraging everybody else to do that. Follow the science, follow the science of what's going on, follow the lead of what our scientists are telling us, but at the same time, let's work in unity so that we can have this great communication. That's part of what IBM.TV is all about, is having a unified message and sharing that message to our global community. So that would be my parting thoughts, is let's be unified in what we do, and let's just try to make this world a better world.
That's wonderful. And I think before we wrap up, I'll play our White House Correspondents news read it by Bill President.
This is International Broadcast Media, also known as IBM Television, and I'm Bill Trezevant. Today's headline, August 21st, 2020. You can forget the balloons. Joe Biden provided fireworks, honking horns, and blinking car lights at the Democratic convention last evening. After nearly 50 years of public service begun in pain and sorrow with the loss of his first wife and daughter, Joe Biden laid down the gauntlet to President Trump and promised to heal the nation as an ally of light and not darkness, stating, "This is our moment. This is our mission. May history be able to say that the end of this chapter of American darkness began here tonight." Joe Biden, invoking echoes of FDR, defined his campaign with a bold blueprint for America he refers to as his strategic plan. A plan which would address climate change, gun violence, the COVID pandemic, and most importantly, the economic recovery. Joe Biden promised help for workers, young people, and those with, quote, a knee on their neck, stating that hope and history have a rhythm. Joe Biden, turning his attention to senior citizens, the aged and infirm, stated emphatically that he would protect them, stating, "You have my word." Next, to the United States American servicemen and women, Joe Biden unequivocally said that he would respond to any threats, any harm, including any bounties placed on their heads every time and without hesitation. The conclusion of the Democratic National Convention was highlighted by prayers from a Jewish rabbi, a Catholic priest, and a Muslim imam. In other news, the DNC reported record online fundraising during the course of the week of the Democratic National Convention. Separately, Steve Bannon, who had been arrested prior in the week on the yacht of a fugitive Chinese billionaire, was released on a $5 million bond. And finally, Donald Trump, after the conclusion of the Democratic National Convention, in an interview on Fox News, promised, quote, sheriffs, law enforcement, and U.S. attorneys at polling sites across America. That is your report today, August 21st, 2020, from IBM Television International Broadcast Media, broadcasting globally from dictatorships to democracies. I'm Bill Trezevant.
That's a very well news read by Bill Trezevant, our White House correspondent based out of DC. And it's time to wrap up, Mark. We had a great show on Medical Friday with Doctor discussing about vaccines and all those stuff around the world. So, anything you want to share before we wrap up?
Just a great job. I thought Bill did a really good job in terms of giving us a feel of what the political situation was in terms of the Democratic Convention. And I was really impressed because I was actually watching even before jumping in on Medical Fridays with the doctors. And I just thought they gave some really good and solid advice that was done throughout the course of this particular morning. So if folks have not had a chance to see it live and in person, we do have it available on our various ways that you can go back and watch the replays. I would urge folks to do that. So definitely, if you've got folks that are catching the tail end of this and you missed the earlier parts, do go back and watch the replays, because we just have great content here on IBM.TV. I have to give a big shout out to my brother from India, Ankit. You're doing an amazing job in keeping this thing flowing and everything. So definitely it's a teamwork effort. So you are part of our executive team along with Nick and Kim. So as one of the producers here, I just want to give you a shout out as well, because you've done a great job. And I just want to shout out your work and your great job that you've been doing. So just wanted to let folks know who you are in terms of being a key part of the components of what we do. So just wanted to let folks know Ankit is an amazing part of the team and definitely one of our leaders. So just wanted to give you a shout out as well.
So Mark, I believe in team, and I think we all are leaders, and we are trying to create something for the world and for the people. And it's all about global citizenship and sharing the best knowledge around the world. And that's what we are doing. Because, you know, there's a lot of negativity, around us and around you and around everywhere. And to make sure that we talk positive and we talk to the people and we talk about people and we take those topics which are not covered by the mainstream media. That is what it is. And then, you know, we have sources around the world. I mean, people beaming us from different parts of the world. We have been almost covered like 6 continents. We are just waiting for one more continent to be a part of it. We are working on a show on Antarctica. That will happen sometime soon. We are just working on the logistics and all that stuff. So amazing stuff going around. So let's see. I mean, and in fact, next week onwards, we have a couple of shows, new shows lining up from Tuesday onwards. So a lot of things going around, and you know that, I mean, it requires a lot of time and effort and a lot of planning and brainstorming, all those things. But that's what it is. I mean, as a team, we are doing all the stuff. So that was amazing. And then before we wrap up, I'll just play out tomorrow's schedule, and then we'll wrap the show. that's our salary lineup, and we'll wrap up
Yep,
this.
and that's going to be a great line.